Welcome to the Hard Water Fishing Show. Jeff and Jason talk tactics, gear, and ice fishing legends.
We are alive. Season 8, Episode 11. It's the first week of February 2025.
I can't believe it's February, man. It's killing me. This whole winter is going so fast, and it was like 45 degrees again here today.
Yeah, it was really warm today also here. Not quite as warm as where you are, but we still got ice. We're good on ice up here.
I'm just gonna sigh.
Yeah.
There's ice. The big lakes have ice.
Yeah.
All the smaller stuff's really, and the question is, will we get it back? Will we have enough cold days to get some of it back safely? We'll find out. Time will tell.
I would be very surprised if I probably would live close to Twin Cities, but like more central Minnesota closer than not. So I would say it would very much surprise me if we did not have fishable ice through the end of February. That would be crazy to me. Because people are driving pickup diesels out there, right?
It's still good. It's still good. There's just going to be some pockets.
Got to be careful.
By this time of year, usually you go everywhere with impunity, and you just can't. You can't. I fished. Well, let's get some beer and we can talk about that. Maybe in the current news, we can talk about current ice conditions.
All right, that sounds good. All right, so we're doing. Are we changing the order of the show? Are we doing beer after intro?
No, I was just thirsty.
Okay, let's get
stay on
first.
Topic.
What's our topic, Jay? You came up with it this time.
I fished a small ice fishing tournament this weekend, and there was a lot of forward-facing sonar going on. When I've been out fishing, I've seen a lot of forward-facing sonar. When you look at YouTube videos anymore, you see a lot of forward-facing sonar. But here's the thing. If you're beginning in this, or if you're just
if you're a casual ice fisherman,
if you're a casual ice fisherman, the cost of entry for forward-facing sonar, especially if you don't use it in the summer as well, is really too much. And so we thought it'd be good to revive some of the topics about how do you find fish without forward-facing sonar? And because right now, if you're trying to find some of that information, you're left behind. So are we left behind? Because neither Jeff or I have forward-facing sonar. We have friends with it, but we don't have it. And I don't intend on buying it. It's not on the list, at least in the next couple of years. So we're going to keep that topic alive here on the Hard Water Fishing Show. We're going to talk about it tonight. We also have an extensive interview with Andrew Gullickson and Luke Lemire from the Iced Up podcast. And boy, did we go on. And we could have kept going on. I mean, it's really fun when you meet two guys, kind of kindred spirits of the ice fishing world. And boy, did we have a lot to talk about, and probably still have a lot to talk about. So pretty cool, great guys. And so we'll have an interview with them. So my recommendation is, if you're going to, as you start listening to this podcast, you go for a drive, a very long drive. Go find somebody you haven't seen in a while, get in the car, turn on the podcast, and time will fly by. And you might end up in another state, another country, who knows, but enjoy it. So Jeff,
we'll probably do some editing to make it fit within a reasonable amount.
And
then maybe we'll have a second edition or
something. Maybe we'll have like at part 1 and part 2. People do that.
Yeah,
we can do part 1, part 2, or something. But it was great. I mean, it was all good conversation with those guys. So super cool to talk to them. Really jazzed.
All right. So Jason, we're at that point. We didn't readjust the schedule, so you can get a drink.
Yeah.
What do you got?
What do I got? So there I was in the aisles of the gas station looking for some beer for the show tonight. And I thought, I looked hard at Corona and I thought, no. And I looked hard at some Dos Equis and I thought, no. And I looked around and I thought, I saw a beer that fits what I'm looking to continue to conjure right now. Yeah. And so I pulling up tonight with Samuel Adams Winter Lager.
Ooh, I've had that one, I think, maybe.
Yeah, I know. But here's the thing. You have to manifest. Based on my current forecast, I have to continue to try to manifest some winter around here. And so that's why I'm drinking a winter lager tonight, hoping for that to return in the bottle. I had to go find a bottle opener too, because that's pretty rare anymore. That you can't just twist it off. I suppose I was supposed to read this.
Yeah, does it have a story?
It does, but I have it's little words.
Oh my gosh, you got your grandpa reader glasses behind
Quiet.
your nose.
No matter what or how you celebrate this special spiced holiday lager, rich malt notes and accents of cinnamon, ginger, and orange peel are perfect for any festivity. Okay, I got some of that. Not bad.
Oh,
Festive and smooth. It's good. Good beer. I'm not used to so many notes in my beer. There's a lot of notes, it's like a whole symphony going on.
wow, look at you, a beer connoisseur. Your
I
palate.
guess.
You have the beer palate. All right, I have a repeat, but I need to go to the store. I just go shopping. Here I was standing in my bar, opening the refrigerator door, looking at what things I haven't drank yet, and I need to go to the bar and or to the liquor store and get something different. But I have the pistachio cream ale, one of my favorites from Indeed, local brew from St. Paul, Minnesota here. And the story I pulled up on the website because let's face it, it's far too short to or too small to read on the
Too
can.
small.
Too
Yeah.
small to read on the
Too
can.
small and it's curved and shiny.
Yeah, but here it is. I
Look
threw
at
it on
that.
the screen there. Look at that.
Screen sharing it. Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. So just like the cracking open of pistachio shells to liberate the nut, raising the pull tab of a pistachio cream ale can punctured the top has the power to bring immense satisfaction. 12 ounces of it, to be exact. This pistachio forward beer does not disappoint, with a subtly nutty and malty flavor that leaves a spritzy mouth feel. It is a beer to go unabashedly nuts for.
I
So
like
here we go.
pistachios, so that's actually one I wouldn't mind trying.
It's
Is it?
really, really good. It's really like it's one of my favorites. And I don't know why I was having a hard time reading that. Like the words in there just didn't flow.
Yeah.
So it
It's a
sounded
long
kind of bad.
sentence.
Anyways, so here we go. Yummo. All right. It is as good and cold. I actually had this for the first time at the brewery where they make it. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
That's cool.
All right. So now that we're not thirsty, now we can move on.
Now we can focus.
We can
Well,
focus.
generally,
I mean,
not all the way, but mainly.
at least for 5 minutes.
Yeah, give or take.
All right. We want to thank our patrons for your support to all the patrons.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Cheers to our patrons. Appreciate
Cheers.
it. Cheers. All right. Listener news. We've had a good number of listener news. We are in that, I don't know, we usually talk about this, but once February starts, ice fishing chatter goes way down. We notice this just like in our podcast downloads, in the people that email us. Everybody in November is like, man, I would walk on 1 inch ice to catch a fish. Don't
Yeah.
ever do that. You know,
No.
now in February, it gets a little chilled. People are still ice fishing, but they just don't talk about it as much. So we do get some listener news, but it is starting. You can feel the end of the ice fishing season coming.
No, do not accept that.
So don't.
Continue to send us news. We will continue to talk about it because otherwise Jeff's like, oh, do you think we're getting to the end?
Yeah. If you want more episodes, you got to keep on listening.
You got to
Otherwise-
keep feeding us stuff. Otherwise, Jeff decides nobody's listening and we have to quit.
All right. So Jeff Moreau, who we had on just a few episodes ago from Eagle Lake in Ontario, Canada. It's Ontario,
Yes.
right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was out Sunday and it was like a blizzard and they got more snow than we do here. There's a picture here and
That
they
is
caught,
a hog.
I know they caught 24 walleyes from 1:30 to 4. 2 were in the slot from 18 to 23 and another 27. And then he has a really awesome picture here of a 27-inch walleye that I'll throw up out the
That is a
picture.
big 27.
It is, and it's pretty fish.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. So we got to get to Eagle Lake. We've talked about this already. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but
It's on the
next year.
list. It's on the
Yeah.
list for sure.
All right. So thanks, Jeff, for sending that in and for listening. And you want to check out his episode. It's the season a few episodes ago. I suppose I should be able to tell you which one it actually is. You could go to the hardwatershow.com and check it out, and it'll be on there. It is Jeff Moreau. Yeah. That was just season or episode 6. So we're on 11. So like 5 episodes ago. Jesse V here sent in a note about, we talked about your shacks blowing away last time. And he sent in this thing called the shackanchor.com. He liked them. I have not used them, but he he's a
Yeah.
listener and must care. So somebody else had asked, how do you keep your ice shack nailed down? And they have like, looks like some specialized, it's just like a piece of metal with a T handle I've seen before, but something that goes into your shack tub and something that goes into the ground to keep it from blowing away.
So I really like this. I kind of cruising through this tonight, and because I've been kind of arguing about it with myself because we've had so little snow the last couple of years. When it's been windy, it's just cold in the shack because you can't keep the edges of the shack down.
Yep.
And I'm kind of looking at what he did here. So what I was going to do, I was actually thinking about this on the way home this weekend on Sunday night, is I was thinking about putting some grommets in the fabric of my shack.
Yep.
But this would make it so you didn't have to do that. And what I kind of like about what he did here is
See
if you
this
look at
front bar? Do you
not
see
what
this
he
front
did,
bar one? You could, instead of a grommet, it goes on the front bar of your shack.
and it goes inside the shack,
Yeah. Yep.
I think, right? That looks like that's inside.
I think you could do either way.
Well,
I don't,
inside, the nice thing about inside is you're not so, I mean, it's like everything. You're inside, so
yeah.
your shack isn't going to blow away as you try to anchor it.
Yeah.
So I kind of like it. Now, I think the one challenge with this site is, once you see those, you're like, well, I can, I
Could I
can,
just make a piece of
I
metal that's
can
bent?
make,
Yeah. Huh?
I've got a chunk of metal and a drill in the garage, and I could probably make that in about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't paint it, but
Oh, did you see
certainly
their color match? Like blue for clam, red for Eskimo,
they do
black
have that.
for.
And I like they also have a pink one, which is a breast
Oh,
cancer donation
oh,
um,
well,
type
that
thing. So that's
that's
pretty
worth it.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a worthy cause. Absolutely. But yeah, that's a great website. So that's shackanchor.com.
Yeah.
So pretty cool little site and certainly has some solutions, some of the most elegant solutions, I might add, that I've seen.
Simple and elegant.
Simple and elegant, which I like, and not,
And
nothing.
and you could probably make these yourself, but
Hmm.
and you could, but if you live in an apartment or aren't that handy or whatever, I
Yeah,
mean, $20 for
it's a,
aren't.
yeah, just, sometimes it's great to hit the easy button and it shows up.
Yeah.
Um, But I really like those pole ones that would go. You could do it inside, and
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. You could do it outside as well, but inside would be better.
Yep. Just don't do it outside, then put yourself in it and not be able to get out.
Yeah, like if your zipper stuck, there you'd be. There you'd be.
That'd
Never
be
come
like
out of
we'd be on
that.
our trip, and when you or Oli would like put that on the outside, and we'd be like, let me
Let me
out," because
out.
he'd lock us
Yeah,
in.
I because I was thinking about that again this weekend because it was stinking windy again on Sunday,
Yeah.
like ridiculously, or Saturday. It was ridiculously windy on Saturday again. And like it was great. It was 40 degrees, but
Yeah.
30-mile-an-hour winds. And so it just sucks the joy out of you. I hate wind. I don't know if I've mentioned that before, but it's like the worst.
Yeah. It is.
Give me like 25 below and no wind versus 30 degrees and 30-mile-an-hour wind. I'm telling you.
That might be a little extreme, but there is
No,
there's
I'm
a
not.
formula
I'm
there.
there. No. I'm
25 below.
give it to me. Yeah. No,
I think
no
you're
wind,
wrong.
25 below versus 30 degrees and 30-mile-an-hour wind. Just everything about it, I hate.
I mean, I think you're being extreme in your example, but I agree.
I disagree with you.
Well, I disagreed.
And it's my
But
opinion. So you don't,
not,
it's how life is.
I'm not saying you're
Um,
wrong. I'm just saying I
well,
disagree.
there's only one way to find out. You'll have to call me the next time it's 25 below with no wind, and I'll have to go fishing and I'll report back.
Yeah, it's going to be cold either way.
It's going to be ridiculously cold. So, anyway, so those are pretty cool, Jeff. What else you
Yeah.
got here? You got something from Cole K. Boy,
Yeah.
that looks nice. Holy crap.
So that is a Smitty sled that he purchased. He said, I cheated rather than build his own Smitty sled.
Got
He got
it.
the metal one. It looks really nice. I sometimes feel like, and I haven't built a Smitty sled, and we talk about it every year, and we don't
I
build
know.
one.
I know.
But going back to our trying not to have things we don't need, this might fall in that category. I mean, sometimes they're invaluable. He said, he has to walk 3 miles with a clam and an Nook XL, and this really helps, which I totally get.
Absolutely agree.
So my problem is sometimes, and this one's okay, but the original Smitty sled had you buy two old skis, right? Find some old cheap skis. You buy some wood, you got for some risers and two crossbars. But the key is that you can take it apart and it takes up almost no space. And sometimes I feel like some of these builds, like this is welded together aluminum and it
No, you got to look closer. There's pins. This whole thing comes apart.
does it all the way apart?
I think that the legs, I think the square frame separates from the legs, the risers.
Right.
So
Which
the
is
square
better than
frame
some.
itself stays together. So
So
it looks like it flattens out.
which is nice. But the original Smitty sled, you could put it into like his length of the ski. Like it would take
Yeah.
almost no space. I've seen people put them in ski bags so that you can transport them. Like you take an old ski bag and then you just put the metal things in there, or the wood things in there. So I like this. It's awesome. I would probably go a little more minimal, but it's super cool.
So here, and maybe I'm probably overthinking it.
We always
So
do.
I do. One thing that has me kind of not why I haven't made one, and some people um programmed around this by using the coffee table riser
Yeah,
brackets. And you're going to put this picture up. So what this is skis with probably a 3 or 4 inch riser and a metal frame. And maybe more than 3, 4 inches.
here I can.
And so then my question is, so there I am, I've got my sled loaded with crap. So let's just say if it's an Annook, let's just say for argument's sake, it weighs 90 pounds with my heater, my stuff, my mineral bucket, my propane,
Yeah,
all my stuff, 2 seats. How do I can get it off of there when I'm out fishing? How do I get it back on there by myself?
mm.
Do I, so I'd
Empty
probably
it.
have to, well, I'd probably have to stand like inside of it and brace it with my feet so it didn't like squirt
Yeah,
out from underneath and kind of drag it on, right? I suppose that's what
yep,
you'd have to do. And so then I get to my car. And so now I have to drag it back off of the, so there's all
yeah,
this. So, and here's my problem. Here's my current problem is there's no snow.
yeah. That's really the
No
thing right now
snow.
for us. Yeah,
So here's what I was doing this weekend was dragging my clam kenai across grass, dead grass and gravel, and then rocks to
Hmm.
get it on the ice. Once I'm on the ice, uh, going with the wind, I can just kick it and it just goes in front of me.
Yeah,
Coming back a little bit different, but I don't need a Smitty sled. So how do I can need deployable wheels to get me across the grass and then not dig
sure.
in. So I don't know, like turf wheels. So I'm just living a different life right now with no snow. And then one of these winters we're gonna get 3 feet of snow, but um, that's my
No,
problem right now.
I
Oh, and
think
then
you're right.
sand. The one at
Oh,
the ice fishing contest we put in on a beach. And so I had to pull it across this piece of sand, which was fine in the morning. It was all froze.
yep,
And then on the
yep.
way back, dude, there were some guys that were pulling full size 2-man shacks across that sand, and it was brutal.
Ooh, ooh,
Just dragging.
yeah.
So grass, sand, gravel, rocks. That's what I need a solution for.
Actually, though, maybe we'd have to try it. I think we're kind of speculating on something we haven't totally tried yet, but
Absolutely.
it
Never
might go
stopped it.
easier on the skis, on
It
the
probably
grass and
would.
gravel,
Less, less
frictionless surface area.
stuff. Um, almost got me thinking about ditching the damn sled and going to a
Hub.
hub. But
Well, you still got to carry a hub.
the weight's no different, but you can just carry the hub when you get to that dumb stuff.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and then so I don't know, but
I
I'm
mean, I
kind
would
of
say Cole got a great rig for him, and this is going
he
to be
did.
awesome.
It's like a whole topic, so we'll have to talk about it more some other day. But Cole, good for you. I'd like to hear your feelings as you use it, and if you say yes, no loading, it's not a big deal. Kilby, quit worrying about it, and I think that'd be
Yeah.
great either way. So
All right. So this next thing, Dan P sent in, and this is about our everyday carry topic. And he uses this Garmin Strike Cast GPS. and I looked it up, and there's a video of a guy using it to trout fish. I'm just share.
Okay.
We're share happy today, I guess. It's just what it is.
No, that's okay.
So here it is. This is the Striker Strike Cast GPS. And there's a cheaper one too that's
Oh,
129
yeah.
also um that we could use. And so you just hook this to your phone, and then this is everyday carry. You just bring this with, and you pop it in the hole. And the cool thing, there's a couple benefits to it. The first one was that there's no cords, so you don't have to worry about when you catch a fish, it just floats out of the way. You don't have to worry about a
Yeah.
cord or anything. Like, it just floats out of the way. And it has this, like, on the side there, you can see it looks like a normal 2D flasher on your phone. Basically, it turns your phone into a flasher, but it has kind of a flasher side thing, like
Yeah, I
they call
see
it
that.
a scope.
Yeah, it's like the current Garmin Striker. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was really good, but you could just throw this in there. And I think some of the drawbacks I could see is, one, your phone, I'm sure, is going to eat batteries like crazy, and so will this, right? I mean, you're not going to be able to go for a long sit, for a few hours, you're probably fine. And
Yeah,
so
but
there's
that's
this,
the whole point of that. Just like
right?
what's your smash and grab kind of program.
Yeah. So this was, to me, perfect, because I mean, you see how
Hmm.
small it is. It is tiny. You could have this in your car, and it takes up no space at all.
You know, the duality of that would also be for people that do boundary water trips or
Oh yeah,
um, low, like lightweight canoe trips or hiking trips where you're looking for some sonar capability.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Great share. Thank you for sharing that. Oh,
And
there's a
see,
dude ice fishing. Yeah.
there's, as you can see, here it is. Like, so you can see, here it comes.
Can you see your lure?
Yeah, watch.
I'm watching. It's not there yet. I still don't see the lure. Oh,
Yeah, so he drops his
oh,
jig down.
yeah. That's all. What more do you need in life?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
and see,
pretty
there's the
sweet.
fish. I think there's see the fish.
Yep, coming up off the bottom.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yeah. So, and it also kind of went with our theme this week about not having super expensive equipment. This was 179. There's a version that's 129 that doesn't have GPS, which I think, who
I don't
cares
know
about
why would you,
GPS?
yeah, why would you need to, that'd just be a battery suck,
Yeah.
actually, because
So,
GPS kills your battery.
I thought it was cool.
That is super cool.
All right. So that
When
was,
I think about my Boundary Waters rig that uses all these batteries and is
yeah.
like a 1990 fish finder, that weighs with the
Mhm.
batteries probably 8 pounds. This thing's gonna make my next Boundary Water trip. I'm gonna get one. I
Yeah,
am.
and then it's everyday carry. It doesn't say how much it weighs.
Yeah,
Oh, specs. Let's see here.
it can't be more than a pound.
2.6 ounces.
Yeah, I mean it can't be nothing. Yeah, that's sweet.
Okay,
That
battery life 10 hours. Oh, so I was wrong. I'm sure that's a little bit adjusted in the winter, but if I get 5 hours out of it, I'm happy.
Yeah, but it can't have a big battery. So I mean, you could bring a 20,000 whatever
Yeah, like
a
a battery
big
pack.
battery pack, charge that bad boy up for a longer trip.
I bet you your phone goes dead before this
Oh
thing runs
yeah.
out of juice.
Yeah.
And you could
No,
do this
that's
on an
sweet.
iPad. You could do it
Yeah.
on an iPad.
Yeah. Yeah,
The only
that's
thing
sweet.
they said, a couple bad things, it floats. So as the ice gets thicker, you get a little more interference because it has to shoot
Mm,
down the sides. And that was kind of a distraction. So, like, if it's 3 feet of ice, it's going to be not as
probably
good.
not the
But
deal.
he said he used it for 2 feet of ice and it was okay. So, I mean, that's pretty thick.
Cool. Very cool. Cool. Good find. I love it.
Yeah. So thank you to Dan P. I believe that was off of Spotify comments. And then our final part of listener news. Somebody asked, this is kind of a really high generic question, so maybe we'll talk about it just for a few minutes, but favorite lures for different species of fish. So maybe just go favorite walleye, favorite panfish. I guess that's really the two. Favorite pike.
Favorite pike is a shiner on a tip up.
Yep. Same.
Um, Favorite walleye really has to be a buckshot, glow perch buckshot.
Yeah.
Caught so many walleyes on
I
those.
feel like the slab seeker is a close second for me
It's
right now.
coming in fast. Yeah. Panfish really is for me probably my most productive panfish one has been um like we all have high confidence lures,
Oh yeah, for
you
sure.
know, and so for me I've got a little green and orange dropper jig, little
Yep.
tiny tungsten drop jig. That with a waxy, so usually what I'm running right now is honestly a slab seeker and one pole and one of those that little oranging um, dropper jig.
Yep. Yep.
And,
Yeah.
if something marks on the slab seeker and won't take it when I'm pan fishing, then I'll drop that other smaller presentation down or vice versa, flip back and forth
Yeah.
between the two. And then on the slab seeker, sometimes I'll run a minnow or waxies, depending on. But that's what I'm doing this winter. And of course, when they don't bite, you throw the tackle box at them.
Of
But
course.
everybody has those ones they tie on and leave tied on. High confidence lures, I think, is the phrase.
Yeah, I like that high confidence lures. Doesn't mean other things don't work too. It's just what you use. The only difference I have from what you have is I use those Snow Drop XL from Clam.
Sure.
That it's a tungsten jig. It just has a certain color that has like it looks like sparkly on the head. It's like little, almost looks like candy, sort of, kind of. So we've talked about those before.
And I've had
Yes,
some good luck with a couple other type jigs, but I mean, it's just kind of have a repertoire of things you tie
yep,
on and off all the
for
time.
sure.
But
And
there
when we have our
is
guests,
there's no one jig,
no,
there's no magic. There's just that. I think really the psychology around a high confidence lure is, you'll decide they're not biting because you couldn't catch them on that. And then sometimes
yep.
you catch them on something else and lake dependent, color of lake dependent, that
Oh,
sort
for
of thing.
sure. Yeah, you won't catch them on a clear lake versus a stained lake versus a more like river versus a yeah. There's all kinds of difference.
So like I watched a bunch of videos over the last couple days and a number of them talk about jigging wraps and I own jigging wraps. I've never caught a stinking hardly ever caught a fish on a jigging wrap. But man, these other guys are on the videos, they're always catching these
Yeah.
fish on these jigging wraps. And it's like I have low confidence in anything I don't put live bait on. But people catch stuff all the time on plastics and
Well, and that's
artificial
to
things without any
enhance
bait.
my everyday carry. I really want to be able to bring plastics with, so you can have it
Yeah.
there, right? You don't have to
Yeah.
have live bait.
Ready to that's a whole. So anyway, yeah. Yep.
All right. So fishing report, Jay. Do you have a fishing report for us?
So I caught a walleye this weekend.
Awesome.
I did. It was um small.
Okay. But it's
Small
a
enough.
walleye.
Yeah, small enough. I kept it just for a little bit in my bait bucket hanging out with. And it was very comfortable. It wasn't even cramped.
And you have
And
a
I have
7.5
the small angle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I really want one of those. Gosh, they had one on sale at Runnings for $59. And I'm like, man, I should really go get
I'm
that.
gonna give a testament to one of those. I went out to the car tonight because I thought I was gonna get out fishing tomorrow and I'm not. So I'd kept my minnows kicking in there, running on the lithium. I have one of those lithium.
Yeah.
So, they clearly know how to manufacture, Engel knows how to manufacture a good bubbler. They
Yep.
just choose not to put it on the bucket you buy. Because their lithium one's top notch. That thing's awesome. They run like 4 days on intermittent.
Wow.
And here's where I'm going with this. Apparently, that bucket got flipped on its side in the back seat of my Yukon.
Ooh,
It
that
did
could be
not leak.
bad.
It did not leak.
Awesome. Or for freeze?
Oh, it hasn't been cold enough to
Oh,
freeze.
yeah, that's right. Okay.
It just didn't leak. It was full. So it could have leaked all over the carpet in the back of the Yukon, and it did not. So,
Were the minnows alive?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, they were still kicking.
Sweet.
Yeah, but they're not anymore.
No.
God rest their souls. But it didn't leak. And so it's perfect for ice fishing.
Awesome.
I use it in the summer too.
I really want one after we used yours last year, and I have that giant Frable one. I'm like, this thing's got to go.
I use it in the summer. I don't know. I know this is an ice fishing podcast, but it feels like summer out here today. So what I do when I'm on long trips in the summer is I take a standard minnow bucket or a 5 gallon pail with holes in it. I put all my extra bait in there and I sink it off the dock in about 5 to 8 feet of water with a rock. And then I just pull it up and put in that little bait bucket what I need for the outing.
Yeah,
So I don't try to keep anything alive in the bait bucket, overnight or nothing. It's just use for the day.
sure. Yeah,
So it works
makes
good.
sense. All right. So that was your fishing report. You caught a walleye.
I caught a walleye. I was so I did that tournament and I worked really hard. I drilled a ton of holes, moved around, caught a bunch of small fish. Nothing real big.
Like
Um,
sunnies, like
sunnies and little perch and
okay.
little walleye. A couple hundred people out there. It seemed like there's people everywhere, but I drilled a ton of holes, man. I was Swiss cheesing that thing.
Wow.
So then after the tournament, I went up, had I didn't do my research. So there I am. I'm like, I'm going to pick a lake out on the way home because this tournament was an hour and a half south of me. So
Sure.
I found this little park. I thought, okay, cool. I'm going to go fish this little park. I looked on the kind of just the general DNR map to see
Yep.
what lived in it, crappies. I'm like, great, I got minnows. I'm going to go look for crappies. I get to the lake and I'm like, this lake looks really low. And so I started doing a little more Googling and I had to go to the county conservation site. And yeah, lake was restored in 2023. So it was drained and being in the process of being refilled.
Oh,
So I'm like, okay, well, not here. So then I
yeah.
went to another lake and got there and there was a goose hole open. So the lake was essentially cut in half by a goose hole. So you couldn't fish kind of
Open
where I
water,
wanted.
right? Like
Open water, yeah,
yeah.
open water. But there was a lot of good ice. But I got out there and it was stupid windy, and so I moved like 3 times, and
Okay.
I never really got on fish. But I was kind of half napping, half fishing because I got up at 4. So I was
Yeah.
really being lazy. I thought, well, I can be lazy here and maybe something will bite, or I can drive home and be lazy. So I was just lazy there.
Hmm.
But you know what was so cool?
What?
Is right at dark, a kid and his dad came out and they were staying at the state park. It's a state park, so there's cabins there, and
Okay.
so just a guy and his kid. Just the kid was fishing, and I was chatting with his dad a little bit because it was right at dark, and I was taking off to head home, and the kid hooked up on a nice fish and
Nice.
lost it at the top of the hole, but it was just fun to. It was just
Yeah.
fun to see, he's super jazzed and just out there having a good time, and dad was supporting him, and they were just drilled a hole and hooked up on a fish. It was super cool. We kind of made my day actually. They had a lot of
Hmm.
fun and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
So
awesome. So you
that's the
don't always,
fishing report.
it's a good fishing report. My fishing report is I had physical therapy today and still can't lift anything heavier than a coffee cup. So that's pretty hard to drill a hole that way. I don't think you can
Yeah.
drill a hole with one hand. You kind of need to. So
You need to go to an occupational therapist and ask them to teach you how to drill a hole with one arm. Because
yeah,
I mean, I would say that there's a way to do it. Certainly there's one-armed people that are ice fishing somewhere in the world.
yeah.
They
I think
figured out how to drill a hole.
I need a friend. I need a friend.
There's where you struggle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, tell Erin she's got to come out and help you drill your holes for you.
I used to have the wheelhouse that had a TV and a microwave, and
Yeah,
she wasn't fishing in that either. So,
she doesn't have to fish. She just come out there and drill your holes.
yeah,
That's
I think
super reasonable. Have you asked?
which is harder to get Aaron to drill a hole or for me to drill my own hole?
Do you want me to
Is what
call her and ask her?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Can you get her on the phone?
Okay, I'll call. I got her number. Hang on. Hang on. I'm gonna call her. We'll see if she
All right.
answers. Erin. She'll like, why is he calling me?
Yeah, you're gonna have to hold it up. Put it on speakerphone, Jason.
612 area code, right?
Yeah, yep, that's it.
Make sure I call the right Erin. I don't know if I want to put this on speaker right away.
You better. We can edit it if we have to.
Okay, it's Reagan. We'll see if is she home?
They were at a.
You don't even know if she's home.
They had a meeting. I don't know if they're back yet. I've heard some rumbling.
Not answering.
Shoot. All right. Well, maybe they're not home. They're at a softball meeting, so maybe they're still there.
She's like, why is he calling me? Nope. I got voicemailed.
All right. Well, we won't find out. Maybe she'll call you back. If she calls you back in the show sometime, then we'll put it back on.
Yep. We'll see what she'll see. She might call me back. You never know.
You never know. I'm surprised she didn't answer. We're like, why is Jason calling me?
I know. I know. Usually she answers for me because I only call her like every couple of years.
Yeah.
So just like, if she called me and be like, oh my God, what's going on? And so I'd answer.
All right. So that good fishing report. I'm glad you got out, and we're gearing up. The big Rainy Lake trip is coming up sooner and sooner, and we're starting to plan and chatter for that. So that'll be awesome.
Yeah, that's coming fast.
It is. It's going to be awesome. So I will have some friends then that can help me drill a hole.
We'll take care of Jeff.
All right, show business. You want to run us through show business, Jay?
Yep. The best places to interact with us are on social media, Instagram and Facebook. You can find our website at hardwatershow.com. We're on YouTube at Hardwater Show. You can email us, hardwatershow@gmail.com, and on X at Hardwater Show. Smash that like button, subscribe, and comment, and let us know what you think. If you have suggestions for the show, we're always open to it. And fact checks, which we'll do next. Just a reminder, you have till the next show to fact check. Once that next show comes out, that whatever content was released in the previous show, you can certainly comment. However, there's no fact check. All information stands as factual.
Yes. We didn't really have any current events either. I didn't have anything that was big there. Like I said, I think the chatter's slower, even from content producers and the news, those kinds of things.
I read an article that would be current news. I believe it's Minnesota based. There is a study. Did we already talk about this? Where there's a committee that's been formed to study the effects of forward-facing sonar on fish limits and population.
Yeah, which is what we're kind of talking about not having today. But yeah, I think there is a study. I don't know. I actually saw some news article or news like on YouTube. There was a news blurb that they do, like the local news, which I found kind of, I'll just call it misleading. Like, it was like a 2-minute clip about somebody saying, well, I don't know about this forward facing sonar technology and all. And I'm like, you guys don't even have enough of the facts to really understand what's going on.
Yeah, this was more just trying to understand fish population limits.
Yeah.
It's not as much about, and the article talked a little bit about, like when people are targeting deep water schools of crappies, the trauma from pulling a fish up from deep. And that's regardless of using forward-facing sonar or not. So that's a separate issue in my opinion.
I think I used to worry about this maybe a little bit more. There was a time where I felt like as fishermen, and fisher people, we did not have good representation in our government, but this is not political, but there's the Minnesota Fish Group, and they are sponsored by, it's a lobbying group, but they're sponsored by a bunch of like the people who do fishing stuff. And they kind of advocate for what I would say is fishermen to make sure they can, their voices are heard. So I don't know if, I'm sure other places have groups like that too, but it's just to make sure that they keep fishing open and free in the state. So.
And I was thinking about this kind of just separately. I think, my humble opinion, forward-facing sonar and the ability to track schools of fish, and we're mainly talking about crappies, really, just to be honest.
Yeah.
Crappies and perch. Lakes that are unpressured, to me, have a greater chance of being impacted, but then less people are fishing them anyway.
Yeah.
So is the effect, because on like this ice fishing contest, the guys with forward-facing sonars aren't the ones that won the contest.
Interesting.
I mean, at least I don't think so. I mean, I was watching a number of them, and they weren't catching any more fish than anybody else, because it was so busy out there. Right. There's so many things impacting where the fish are moving and so much noise. And if you go a metropolitan lake, the same thing, or a lake that has a lot of activity, some of that is mitigated just by the busyness of the lake. So it's really your less populated lakes. Well, then those have less pressure to begin with, so they can sustain the harvesting. So, you know what I mean? It's kind of like fishing people are on the decline, we're not having more people out fishing, unfortunately. So, what are the effects of the population of fisher people now than there was 10 years ago on, versus, I don't know, who knows? There's somebody out there that can put that into a formula and is way smarter than I am,
Well,
figure
that's
all
why I
that
kind
out.
of said like it's good that they are using facts. They have somebody studying it to see what the
Yep.
effects are, and then
Yeah.
also I like that there's other people kind of checking that and making sure we're not just getting the I don't know, I'm gonna call it anti-fisher person, like
Yeah.
people who just don't want us to be fishing at all. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
all right, yeah, that's so I didn't have
Well,
a lot
we
of
have
current events.
there's a fact check.
Ooh, what is
It's
that?
kind of a fact check. It's another sushi one.
Oh yeah, we're on sushi still.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of too late for a fact check, so maybe it's a comment. I was talking to Ole, and he's like, "Well, sushi is more than just sushi roll." You're right.
Mm,
It is. And so I just wanted to mention that we talked about eating sushi, and sushi is not all sushi is raw either. I think we talked about that a little bit.
yes,
So anyway, I don't know why we're on sushi, but once we say something, we kind of go down the rabbit hole. So anyway, Oli just chimed in about not all sushi being raw, and it's not all just rolls. So there you go.
we did hear from Basshole, and he also said yes. I did some research, and he also said yes, there is crab meat in some of them and not in others. So
Me and the wife actually went out for sushi after the last show because I'm like, you know what, I got a hunkering for some reason, and that
for
was
some
good.
reason,
Yeah. And we just did the rolls. We didn't, I think I had a little raw, like some tuna, some spicy tuna.
I love
So
tuna. Oh, tuna's so good. I could eat that stuff till the cows come home. I don't know why people say that, but
I don't know what it has to do with tuna. Moving on.
oh boy. All right. So gear, we didn't really have any gear things, but you did pick up one gear thing, Jason. You were talking about your blades on your ice auger.
Oh, hey, so let's talk about that. So I actually changed out my blades in my ice auger. I just did it yesterday. I did it after the competition because I was afraid I might screw it up and then I'd get there and my auger wouldn't work. Um, Couple of interesting things about that. So I I was real nervous about it because there you are, you're trying to loosen the bolt on the bottom of the
Hmm.
blade, and if your finger slips, you could like slice off your hand, right? Because it's gonna get the other blade.
And if they're dull, it doesn't even matter. They would cut your hand.
It,
I mean, they are
it's
so sharp.
Yeah, they'd still get you.
Oh yeah.
And Aaron just texted me. Did I mean to call her? Yes.
Ask her if she's busy or if she's at the softball meeting still.
Are you? Yeah, I'll ask her if she's busy. Are you busy? Um, anyway, so I replaced it. So I don't know if this was on the show or when we had Dave on or in texting with Dave, Northwoods Dave, where we were talking about the flutes on the auger could break.
Yeah, the shattered one that we heard about.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when I took I ended up taking the base of the auger off, so I didn't have to futz with the whole auger when I took the blades
Hmm.
off. And I wanted to check the centering point because in my mind it felt like the centering point was sinking down, but it can't. It wasn't. It's just in my head. And so I took that off, but here's where I'm going with this, and I haven't checked it out yet. But you can take those flutes off. Like they just slide on the
Oh.
shaft.
So if you
And
shattered one, you just get a
so
new one.
technically you could replace them. So I was going to look on the Eskimo site to see if they sell replacement flutes. If they do, there you go. It's not an issue. It's still actually easier than if you bend a metal auger and you kind of have to chuck the whole thing. I'm going to call Erin. She's not just got home, not busy. I'm
All
calling.
right. It's funny that you're calling her and it's going to be from your audio, even though I'm in the same house.
Hey, you're live on the Hard Water Fishing Show. How you doing?
Oh, stop.
So here I'm talking to Jeff, and you're not gonna be able to hear him because he is in my ears on earphones, but you're speaking into my microphone. So Jeff can hear you, but
She
he
could
can't
come
hear
down
you.
here and be on camera if
She
she wanted
could.
to.
That sounds
Yeah,
wonderful.
or you could come down and be on camera. That's up with Jeff if you want. But otherwise, this is this is this is a really short question. So Jeff,
What's up?
well, I just want to let you know that Jeff's really lamenting his inability to go ice fishing. And he's complaining about this arm. And so the question is, would you this weekend maybe take him and just drill him a couple of holes and let him fish?
Absolutely not.
Is there anything Jeff could do for you that would help, it would make it so you would help Jeff drill a couple? Thinking, Jeff.
I don't think there's an answer to that question.
No, there's really not ice hole in my
Oh,
life.
Jeff would talk. He's a professional talker. He'd talk you right through it.
I'm sure.
You can,
Yeah.
if you can do this. I know you can. I'm confident.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm certainly not going to have to think about that. You are really catching me off guard here.
I know.
Jeff should not be on the ice. Jeff should. It's not safe. The man yelled at me when I nudged him yesterday, so I don't feel like he should be on the ice.
Do I need to mail him a walker?
Or bubble wrap?
No, I will.
I know you will. You mailed me a cane in the past. He needs to just get over himself and let himself heal until you guys go on your hard water, and then you can all drill his holes for him.
All right.
The other professionals.
All right. All right. Well, just would you at least think about it?
Yeah, sure.
All right. I appreciate it. Anything else you have for our listeners tonight that you'd like to share?
No, your co-host is a big old baby, and he just needs to get over himself. He'll be fine. He's got plenty of years to ice fish.
All right.
Just chill out.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking my call, Aaron. I really appreciate it.
Fine. You guys have a wonderful night.
All right. You take care. Bye-bye.
Wow, that's a first.
Well,
We've never had a call in before.
I tried.
I kind of knew that's what the answer, but that's fine.
All right. So we were talking about my auger. So I got the blades replaced. The old ones were pretty beat up. Like I never really looked at them. They had some little chips out of them, and so they were pretty beat up. So these are certainly it was time for new blades. It was $30 from Shields. I did not do any, like I really didn't price shop. I was at Shields and I had a gift card, $50 gift card. So
sure,
I just bought the blades and got it done and put it all back together, and we'll see how it cuts. It's got to cut better. My drill was starting to trip out, and so that's was kind of my indication that the blades got to be getting dull, or the drill's going bad. But more likely, based on I don't know how long have I had that pistol bit? We'd have to look back at the show. 3-4 years. It's drilled a lot of holes.
Yeah.
A lot of holes. So
my 40 volt still has the original blades, and it's at least 5 years old. So
but I'll tell you,
get new ones.
I fished with the dude at this ice fishing contest that I met and just chatted, and we fished. He had an older ion.
Yeah.
And even with my dull blades, I was smoking that ion.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Although I've never found drill auger speed. There's like, it's faster, but like, I mean, I don't know, maybe.
It's not a race.
Yeah.
But I will say I had like 8 holes drilled and he had 2 done.
Ooh, yeah. There's like a level, right? There's a certain level where you're like, that's good enough, and maybe he's not there.
But it was an old ion. It was a Gen 1 ion. I mean, it had. So this guy I met, he fishes a lot like that guy. So that ion certainly had its use to it. So
cool.
That's gear. So the other gear thing I wanted to mention is I'm starting to look at Ice Shack.
You're not happy with the Kenai?
I've tried to be happy. I'm trying so hard to be happy, and I'm just not.
So you're going to go back to a 2-person one, or what?
No, well, I was looking one of the other clams portables is just a little wider.
Yeah, I like that one too. I know what you're talking about.
And it's a little taller in front, and it's like 5 more pounds.
Yeah.
So there's two ones that are bigger, and one's got the small tub and one's got a deep tub.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking I need to go sit in them. I need to go sit in them, and I need to think about it. I'm just not enthralled with my setup. So I keep thinking, well, I just need to love it, and but I don't.
But the beautiful thing is, like, you can sell yours.
I can, and just buy
some money.
Yep.
Yes, it will cost you more. I mean, you're going to spend money.
But I got such a good deal on the one I've got. That's going to be the hard part, is I won't get a good deal again. But
got to look at used stuff.
Yeah. Well, I really like, and I know I kind of poo-pooed it, but I really like that tall front on that clam.
Yeah.
One man. So
the other ones I really like, the one man.
Or go to a hub. I thought about going to a hub for a season and just seeing if I like it.
Yeah, I like my hub, but I think you need a hub and a 1-person. I don't like my 1-person either, but I like the Otter Cottage, but it's super heavy. Super heavy.
Well, I think so. Here's what I was thinking is maybe I need to do a little bit of engineering for myself.
Yeah.
Right. So when I'm in the flip over, once I flip that thing over and I get the heat on, I'm kind of lazy. So as much as I tell myself, hey, I just keep flipping and moving.
You don't.
Well, and well, and some of that reason is like, I don't, it's just, there's still all these steps. And
Yeah.
so then I think, okay, if I had a hub, I would be once I put the hub up, I wouldn't move. But would I search for fish longer before I put the hub up, knowing I couldn't move?
Mm.
So I don't know.
So you put it down thinking, hey, I can move this in the spot.
Yeah,
And then you're like, no, I'm comfortable. I'm not moving
I'm super
anyways. Yeah.
comfy and where am I going? So I get a little lazy once in a while, and I hate to admit that.
It's okay to be lazy, Jay. I mean, this is not, well, it was a competition this weekend, but generally
I wasn't lazy then. I was lazy
Yeah.
in the after that. But then I start thinking like, I just, you got to grind, man.
Yeah.
So
I
anyway, that's my gear.
It was a width problem. At the end of the day, it's a width problem. I don't like mine because I can't reach around to get things from behind me. That's my
And
problem.
I'm having the same, like I can, but I can't,
Yeah.
like
Just too tight.
and the other trouble I'm having is like my rod bag doesn't really fit in it real well.
Mhm.
So I keep taking my rod bag out, and so either I need to build in rod storage.
Yeah.
So the rods just live there. Then I don't like that because I got to take them out if I just want to grab and
Yeah.
go. And then, so then I'm just down this road of compromise.
You know what you could really use
What?
is a small 2-man that Clam makes. They have these what
A clam Nanook
Clam
that I
Nanook.
sold.
That's
I
what you
sold.
need. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I've had one of those not insulated. I can't do non-insulated anymore. That's a no-go for me anymore.
Yeah.
I have insulated.
I just, it's like anything. There's no perfect solution for all things,
Nope.
but
You got to have multiples. That's
yeah.
what happens.
So I'm going to watch some of the end of the season sales and see if something pops up.
Yeah. All right. Should we run into our topic here, Jay? Because
let's do this. Let's do this.
So this was the topic, as a reminder, is left behind. You don't have forward-facing sonar. Everybody else does. How do you fish and be successful?
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, if you, like I was saying on the intro, if you are new to ice fishing or you're just kind of getting, maybe you've been fishing with buddies for a while and you're thinking of jamming up and doing more, I'm telling you, good luck looking for videos on how to find fish. Everybody tells you how to operate a forward-facing sonar.
Yeah.
And I mean, the basic cost of entry for those is $2,000 plus.
$2,000 is like the cheapest possible you could get, and I think that's like on sale. Good luck.
Yep.
They're usually more
$2,000
like
plus.
$3,500.
Correct. And so there you are. So you got that. Then you have to buy an auger and you have to buy an ice shack and then all your rods and reels. And so it starts to feel like
and then you better go because you spent $10,000 to get out on the ice.
And so there's the whole psychology of it. Like there's the whole psychology too of what's that guy using? He's catching fish and I'm not, and boy, I need to have that to be successful at this. Yep. And do you? I mean, the question is, do you? And I don't think you do.
No.
I don't think you do.
At least definitely don't let it stop you. Go fishing without one. Don't let it
always
stop
catch
going.
What do I always say, Jeff? You always catch more fish fishing than when you're not fishing.
Yeah.
Generally.
Exactly.
Not always. Yeah. Sometimes you don't. Well, but at least you're fishing. You're always fishing, do more fishing when you're fishing versus when you're not fishing.
Your chance of catching a fish on your couch in your living room
Zero.
is 0.
Zero. Yeah. I used to be able to say your chance of catching fish on a couch is 0, but now I have to say in your living room.
Yeah, because wheelhouses.
Because of wheelhouses. So we did some research and some diving and kind of had to go into the Wayback Machine to look for some fishing videos about 5 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
To get away from forward-facing sonar to say, how do you locate fish? How do you read a lake map? And those types of things. So Jeff, you did some stuff, and we want to talk about what you found out.
A couple of people you've heard of before that Jay Siemens, I think lots of people have heard of him. He's got really good content on YouTube. He talked about doing localized search content. You just said localized, like you'll be like, oh, fish the flats or something, but look for somebody local that's been talking about what people are fishing by you and what your situation is.
Mm-hmm.
He mentioned using maps, which I think is probably one of the biggest things. So on your phone, you can get like Navionics. I think it's called boating now, but Navionics on
Yeah.
your phone, or the Onyx Fish in some places works. He said even Google Maps, if your lake is too small and it's not mapped, your satellite Google Maps sometimes will be like, oh, I want to fish the shallow spot. You can look on Google Earth from the satellite and you can see structure from the satellite. You know, if your lake is
Absolutely.
too small, because not every lake is mapped.
The other thing can I add in on that a little bit?
Yeah, for
You know,
sure.
your local DNR. So depending on what state you live in. So Iowa, you know, mainly all man-made lakes, right? We do have some naturally occurring up in the northwest part of the state, but for the most part, everything's impound or dug or made.
Yeah.
So the DNR in Iowa has maps on every lake in Iowa that they manage and where they put structure. And, you know, fish in man-made lakes tend to orientate to the man-made structure. They're not cruising around basins as much. They're
Mhm.
orientating to that. And the other thing that I found in my research, and I knew it before, and now I remember it again, is certain types of structure are better than others, man-made structures. So like wood
Oh,
structure tends to hold more fish than like PVC type artificial trees.
sure.
Christmas trees are the worst. I wish they'd quit putting them in the lakes. It just kind of makes a gooey mess
Oh,
after
yeah.
a while.
Fishing with,
Um,
yeah.
you know, but they tend to use them because they get them for free. But um, it's so looking for that structure. So Iowa, for instance, and I'm sure other states are similar where they do a lot of management. All those brush piles are marked, every single one of them, and
Wow.
that's where the fish orientate. So when
Yeah.
you're using a flasher, you can. Am I getting ahead of myself? I'm kind of cut
No,
you off.
you're good. You're
So when
good.
you're using a flasher, you know, you can use the GPS on your phone by going to those state maps and find the brush pile. And
Yeah,
so sometimes the fish are on the brush pile, sometimes they're around the edges of the brush. And so a lot of your flashers have, so anytime you're looking for a particular type of structure, a lot of your flashers have a dual band. So like my hummingbird has a dual band, has a wide band
sure.
and a narrow band. And so when you're getting close to that, you want to really hone in on where that pile is, that rock pile, that ledge, that
Christmas
Christmas
tree.
tree. You go with a narrow band, and if it's not there and you hit the wide band and you start hitting it on the edge of that, it
Yeah.
starts showing up as clutter. Okay, now you know you're within X amount of
Yep.
feet of that. So you can use your band to figure out, am I on the drop? Same thing on a drop, where it'll start, you know, if you're on the deep side and you're working way up shallow, on the narrow it'll show 20 feet. You hit the wide band, now you got clutter at 15.
Yeah.
You're on the drop,
Yep.
right? So you can
Yep.
use those flashers to really indicate where you're at.
Mhm. Yeah. So flashers for sure. I mean, because you can buy a cheap flasher for a few $100s
You can
or
get
less.
The Garmin Striker is probably your best budget. We said that in the other show, I think.
Or you can get the
Or that other little
striker
deal.
cast thing. Yeah, that
The
we talked
Striker
about.
cast, yeah.
I would maybe that wouldn't be my first one, but maybe
No,
yeah. I don't know.
no.
So they talked about visual clues, just reading the shoreline, like steep breaks tell you what the water is doing without any electronics. You can look, oh, look at a drop off cliff. I bet you it's deep there. Oh, look at a very slow sloping ground into the lake. It's probably shallow there, right? So you can read those things. You can see where streams come in or water is moving. Those kinds of places are good. Just don't get too close. It's ice fishing. Don't go through. And the final one they said is hire a guide once. It's probably cheaper to. It's definitely cheaper to hire a guide. In fact, when I went out with Kurt, I didn't have my own live or forward facing sonar, but Kurt did, and he let me use it. So that's another way of hiring a guide. It might seem like, oh, that's a lot of money to spend, but it's cheaper than forward facing sonar. Take a guide, and they know more than forward facing sonar does.
I also think hitting the local bait shop with a map.
Yeah,
So go to the bait shop with a map of the lake you want
yeah,
to fish and say, hey, I'm newer to this
Yeah.
area. I'm newer to fishing this lake. Can you mark up a few spots for me? And go when it's busy because people
Yeah.
will share information too,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, and they'll help mark up that map to give you some starting points. They absolutely will. People, by and large, people are way friendlier in person than they are on the internet.
Oh yeah. For
You
sure.
know, nothing worse I hate. You go to these forums and someone will ask, "Hey, I've never fished X lake.
Yeah.
Can you give me some tips?" And people are like, "Get out there and try it yourself, dude."
Yeah.
Like, why are you even on this fishing forum?
To
Like,
like just
why are you just
hold a
there
picture
to
of the big fish you caught,
just
and they won't
there
tell
to
you how.
beat people down?
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to give them your spot on the spot because say, hey, west side on the weed line is usually pretty awesome. Like, give that a try. You know, how hard is that to say? Or watch out, you know, I don't know why people got to be so mean, but
It always reminds me that I think we've told the story before, but Brian Brosdahl once saw him, and he's a big hummingbird rep, and he had his helix with all his spots on there, and I'm like, oh, you just leave your spots on? He's like, I don't care. The fish move. He's like, I don't care
yeah.
if you know my spots from last year because they're not the spots for next year. So whatever. And usually the spots that everybody knows. So he was
Yeah,
not concerned at all.
everybody knows. Um, so what
So
else
then,
did you learn
so
or
then there was one
remember?
other one. I looked at some videos and probably weren't super great, but another person that I watched, Tom Boley. Have you heard of him
Oh
before?
yeah, Tom Bowley, yeah.
So he taught me something that to do. I will show it to you on my Helix. I have it here. I'm going to pull my camera down and we'll look at it because it's something we kind of did on Winnie last year, but I can do it on my Helix 7, which I didn't know about. Now, Helix 7 isn't cheap by any means, but I use it in the summer and the winter and I have it. So, and it's much cheaper than forward facing sonar. But he actually, I'm going to get it right now. So I'm going to bring up my Helix 7
Okay.
and I have it set to spots that I usually like to fish on on Mille Lacs. So here
Okay.
we go. So here, hold on. So you can see. Ooh, how does that show up?
Good, right
Oh, there
there.
we
You're
go.
good.
Okay.
Golden. Yeah.
So we learned this last year on Winnie, but I have a Hummingbird Helix 7, and it can do depth contours so you can highlight the places you want to fish.
Yeah,
So
the
this is
five does the same one.
yeah.
Five does
So
that too.
I hadn't used this before. Yeah, any Hummingbird flasher, it doesn't have to be 7, could be the 5. And this has the map chip in it, but so you can see, as you can see by the red lines, I've fished here a lot. um, but what I did was you go into menu, and then there's 3 settings here. You can do shallow water highlights, and so you just say anything under 10 feet, make it red, so you can see all
Yeah.
the red is under 10 feet. And then what you can do is highlight a depth that has green, so that's the part you want to fish in, and so that makes that green. And then you can set an offset of kind of like a range of like 5 feet, kind of to like how far you want to go up or down from there. But what it does is it highlights, and this is cool because, and I played with these numbers because I knew places I like to fish. And so what I did was I messed with these. So I'll show you again here. And I messed with these and I'm like, oh, I thought I was wanting to highlight more like 30 feet. And I'm like, nope, see how it like, now you can see like the whole thing's green. It doesn't really help me know where to fish. So if I go here and I want depth highlight, because I'm looking for structure, right? And then like if I went to 23 feet, now you can really see, oh yeah, well, these are the flats I should be fishing on. That really shows me where I want to fish. So this is not a
Yes.
forward facing sonar. This is just going, I'm going to target those areas. And as you can see, look at my waypoints there, like they're all on those flats, right? They're all just bam, 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 all over those flats. So this is really like if I was going to go to a different part of the lake, right? You're like, oh, well, that's where I want to be,
Looking for similar structure. Yeah, you
or
bet.
that's where I want to be, and you notice that's where, but it's just a way to kind of go, even way over here. And this is a really big lake, obviously, but I go way over by Garrison here, and you can see these are the places I'm going to want to fish. And so I thought this was like, I don't need forward facing sonar to do this. Now, this isn't showing me the fish. This is me finding places to fish. And even with forward facing sonar, I just went over like probably like a half a mile or a mile of structure. Forward facing sonar doesn't get you that far. So that was the tip. I really thought, wow, he really showed me something that I didn't know. And you can watch his full video. I'll post it out here. But I liked, not only can you highlight them, but you can also, show the highlights and then do it on here and adjust. And this is dialed into how I like to fish on Mille Lacs because it highlights the places I like to fish, even places I haven't fished.
So
Yeah,
that same option, Jeff, is also available on Navionics.
it is. And we've used it on
Yep.
Navionics too. Yep.
Yep. And so you can do that. That's under the map options,
Yep.
under depth shading.
Yep.
Um, you
You're
can't see it's backwards.
yeah.
But what I'm saying is, so even with a flasher, you can use that on your Navionics. I use that all the time when I'm fishing new lakes, especially in the summer
Yeah.
on my boat, because I'm like, hey, I want to find a little 10-foot hump or 12-foot hump on a big lake. So
Yeah.
it just depends on how good Navionics is on your or your lake master chips are on your lake chips are in your particular body of water you're fishing. But yeah, it just helps you find those little spots.
Yeah.
And that is super cool. That's a great thing to share, Jim.
So Tom Boley showed that to me, and I did it on my Helix and brought it here. I thought it was so cool,
Mm-hmm.
and just to dial it in because he said 30 feet, and I'm like, I don't know, Mille Lacs, that's pretty deep on Mille Lacs, and I was just using Mille Lacs example. But when I dial it into where I fish, and I'm like, oh, this is it. It's 23 feet on Mille Lacs. That's the flat versus the hump, and where things really get interesting. So yeah,
Yeah, very cool.
so
Very
that's
cool.
that's what I do without live scope. That's how I fish. I find those spots. And then this is a flasher, obviously, too, that shows, you can show the fish there. So what did you
So,
find, Jay?
well, so I was reminded of a YouTube channel called Dominate Fishing, and
Okay.
Dan Meyer is who runs that, and he has some pretty good information out there about crappies specifically. And if you go back into his older stuff, like 4 or 5 years ago, he's got a lot of information on how to find crappies, and he kind of breaks it down to, first of all, you got to know what lake you're going to fish. So if you're fishing a shallow basin lake or a
Yep.
shallow man-made lake or a big lake or a reservoir or where one has an old creek bed through
Yep.
it. So first step is to know like what so I'll use Iowa for example. By and large, they're all crappies and fish, even though we have basins, are orientating to man-made structure.
Mhm.
So stuff that's put in the lake, because a lot of those big basins are just devoid of anything, because they
Yeah.
just got nothing, because they were
Hmm.
scraped. It's not natural lake bottom.
Yeah.
They were scraped down to nothing. So I don't know what the organic
Yeah.
load of that is. It's not
There's
like
not
Mille
like
Lacs
bugs
where there's
and
like bugs and worms and
yeah.
don't know. That
Yeah.
was maybe dry 10 years ago. So don't really know. But that's where fit like high, because you're going for what's your highest percentage. So the
Yep.
thing that Dan talked about is start with your wins. Don't look for that spot on the spot when you're first getting to know a lake. Go for your high
Yeah.
percentage. So what that means is like if it's a well-known lake, start with a community hole,
Yeah.
right? So to what you did is you looked and said some of those spaces you started were community holes. That's how you
Oh
learned
yeah.
them. And
Those are
then
not
what you
secrets.
used
Yeah.
was your electronics to say, okay, on this lake, if I use my depth shading, what else is like this?
Yep.
And so where are those other spots on this lake? But start in those kind of well
Yeah.
known. The other thing, he talked about, and some of this is like when you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, but you don't always think about it. Like on a bigger basin type lake, you're looking for where's the basin pinch down, because you're
Mhm.
taking all those fish that are swimming around in the bigger area and putting them into a smaller area. So it makes it easier to find. The big thing with him, which is part of the nice thing about augers today, is with a flasher, really you're just drilling, and even with forward facing, but certainly with a flasher, you're going to drill some holes.
Oh
And
yeah.
so you're going to start off, especially for crappies, and you're going to drill a whole bunch of holes in about four different spots around the basin, and you're going to check them. And instead of just putting the flasher down, you're going to put the flasher down, use a something to attract fish to see if something's
Yep.
home. And you're going to not spend much time on each hole, maybe 5 minutes. right? Or less. You're going to put a
Mhm.
flashy type lure down, maybe a jig and wrap or a buckshot or something bigger just to see if something shows up to take a look. And if it does, now you hone in on that a little bit, right? And work it.
Mhm.
But you're going to move around, you're going to bounce around as you start to learn these lakes, but you're using the flasher to determine, yeah, there is fish here. And you're using that wide, narrow cone to find the edges of
Yep.
drops or structure or man-made structure, or whatever. So um, it's certainly not impossible. I mean, people caught a ton of fish before forward-facing
Oh yeah.
sonar, and Dan's got a lot of really good videos. He gets super excited about crappies. Ah, that's a big crappie. He really gets excited about it, which they're great fish to catch. So,
They are.
but yeah, it's moving around. We talked about a lot of that years ago, where you move, you move, you move, and as you learn a lake, that's
Yeah.
if you just go fish one spot, your line's in one spot on a huge lake. You got to kind of move it around. But I just want people to know that you don't have to have all this high dollar electronics to go out and enjoy fishing. You just don't.
Absolutely.
Panfish, you're going to check those weed lines, right? Especially early season.
Yeah, because I showed my hummingbird, but like you said, on Navionics, I can do the same thing. On it's not called Navionics, it's called Boating. I think Boating US.
Boating.
Yeah, and then I don't know about the Onyx one. I haven't tried that on the Onyx. I'll have to try that. But to me, the maps are your friend there because they're going to get you in shooting distance of those structures you're looking for. Where's the weed line? Where's the saddle? Where's the pinch point? Where are those things? Whatever's interesting.
The other thing I would say is by and large, people are friendly. Anglers are friendly,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and so just striking up a conversation with somebody to say, hey, especially if you're newer, hey, I'm pretty new to this. Would you
Yep.
mind just, you're walking on the lake in the morning. Hey, could you point me in a starting
Yeah.
place? I'm pretty new to fishing out here. Can you give me any advice? People, when you ask someone for advice, people most generally are always going to give you
Yep.
something. They're going to say, yeah, man, I mean, why don't you sometimes leave say you just tag along, you
Well,
know.
there's really two like, and I give people advice all the time, whether or not it's good or not. You're leaving, or you see them at the boat launch, or wherever you get the access, and you'll give them some advice. But there's also code word for I'm not going to tell you, which is like, how was the fishing today? Really tough. Didn't see
Yeah,
anything. That might be
yeah.
code for I have my
Um,
limit, but I'm not
but
going to
I'm
tell
not
you.
going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you.
But
Yeah.
usually they're not going to say no. They're going to either give you information, or they're going to say it was tough fishing out there. So if somebody says it's tough fishing, don't always count it out.
And don't be afraid to ask that kid that's got the camera strapped to his head who may be out filming content. He might be more than happy to tell you
Yeah.
what's going on because he's probably not a meat fisherman, right?
Yeah.
He's just going out to film some content and maybe fishes a lot more than you or I would ever hope to. So,
I know.
and the old dude, but it's
Yeah.
just people. I've always found people pretty friendly. Even like this ice contest this weekend, met a young man who, like, hey, you ever fish this? He's like, nah, no, it's first time up here. I'm like, yeah, me too. I'm like, hey, should we try to tackle this together,
Oh,
try to figure it out? He's like, absolutely. So we fished together throughout the contest and try, work together to try to figure out the lake. And it was good. We had some nice
yeah.
conversation and worked together to try to figure some things out. So it was fun.
Cool. I'm jealous. I wish I was out, but soon enough we'll get out there. Well, Jay, getting to the end. I don't know any other not forward facing sonar, non forward facing sonar tips you want to share?
No, I don't think, I just think maybe we'll make a mental note to try to continue to share some tips about finding fish and where to find fish and
Yeah.
how we locate them and how to put that together. There is just to be kind of blunt. I mean, there's a lot of videos that are titled "How to Find Crappies," and they basically say, like, "Oh, I looked at this map and I drilled these holes and I found these fish," and it doesn't break it down small enough,
Well,
right?
I saw one that was like, so here's how you find crappies. Early ice, they're in the shallows. Mid season, they go to the mid depths, and then late season, they're in the basin. And I'm like, okay, all right.
The other way to find fish is there again, come back, go to the DNR, go to the Department of Natural Resources for your state and talk to those people. They have so much information. Start with your high population lakes.
Yeah.
Because if you're like me, you're looking for the one walleye that lives in the lake. It's going to be a long slog. So you want to go to a lake that's got a good population of crappies. You want to go to a lake that's got a good population of keeper-sized sunfish. The DNR knows all of that in every one of our states. They know all the population data for every decent-sized lake because they manage it. So those CO officers, most of them got into that job because they really want to they
Oh,
enjoy
yeah.
the outdoors and it's their jam. And so they'd love to talk to somebody about, hey, I'm newer to fishing and I want to fish X
Right.
lake. What can you tell me about it? And they're going to give you a wealth of information
For sure.
about where to find fish, what kind of lake structure, what they know about size, what they know about limits, who they've talked
Yeah.
to at the dock. They know all that. They like talk to everybody. And they also check them to see if they actually caught fish. So
Yeah, they want to check you to see if they caught
they
fish.
get to look in the bucket of the guy
Mhm.
that just says, "Oh, it's a hard day." They actually look in that guy's bucket.
Yeah. They're like,
If he
can I
caught
see?
anything.
Yeah.
So they know so much, and they're probably one of the biggest underutilized resources
Yeah.
for new people starting out fishing. Um, so talk to those folks.
Mhm.
There, I'm getting off my soapbox.
All right. Well, Jay, we should have a legend with our interview. So we'll
Yeah,
have that.
absolutely. So we're going to talk to our friends from the Iced Up podcast, and man, what a show! Hang on
For
to your
sure.
hats if you're wearing them.
Hey, on the Hardwater Fishing Show, we have guests Andrew Gullickson and Luke Lemire from the Iced Up podcast. Thanks, guys, for being on the show today.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us, guys. Appreciate it.
And, just as an intro for those that probably already know who you guys are, but we'll do a quick intro. Andrew, you are been ice fishing for a long time. You have your bait company that you have, and then also do guiding and a podcast. You do lots of different stuff for ice fishing.
Yeah, I'm busy as far as ice fishing. I'm pretty ice fishing invested, you might want to say, with Beaver Tail, with Backroads Guide Service. I like to ice fish. What can I say?
Awesome. And Luke, you're a little bit more I wouldn't say part-time ice fishing, but maybe not running three different aspects of that. So you have the podcast and ice fisherman.
Yep, I'm podcast. Been ice fishing. Andrew and I have been ice fishing together for I want to say, oh God, it's got to be 20 years plus now because we're coming up on 20 years of us being out of high school, and both of us are affiliated with Striker. Andrew is a Striker Pro Staff member. I am a brand ambassador for Striker, and we've been doing a lot of stuff with them and love every minute of every time we can get on the ice. We don't get on the ice a ton together, but when we do, it's a good time.
Yeah, and I'm more, although it's kind of come around a little bit, but I'm more like our techie guy. I like the toys. I like the technology and ice fishing, that sort of stuff. Where I'd say Luke is more the let's make it, let's build it type of
Very
guy.
much so.
Very cool.
And like, we cross over on both of those things a little bit, but it's kind of the gist of it. Might have to bounce around rooms here.
Yeah, no, that's totally awesome. I mean, hey, we just appreciate you guys spending the time. So whatever room you need to be in, that'll work. So one of the first questions we always talk about when we have people on the show is kind of your origin story from ice fishing. What was one of the earliest moments or memories from ice fishing? And so maybe Andrew, if you want to kick us off, and then Luke can go after that.
Oh, man,
Okay.
one of the earliest ones that sticks, anyways, was actually just being out on the ice. We could drive out that year. I was probably like 8, and I remember my feet being cold because I was in sorrels, which many years later I found out were steel toe.
Who puts their 8-year-old in steel toe sorrels? Anyway, go on.
Yeah.
Wait till if you ever meet his
Yeah,
dad, you'll understand.
Okay.
It's very Army surplus. I'm sure he got that Sportsman's Guide
Sure.
before it was like a retailer. It was more of a surplus store back then. And we had cousins out and the trucks out, and basically you went fishing until Dad wanted to go home. Cold, if you're cold, you get in the truck for a while or you go run around, right? And I remember having this old pool cue of a fiberglass rod and a reel with a spring bobber, and if it happened to go down, you'd go running out the side door of the little tiny. You wouldn't even call it a shack anymore. I don't think people use them, and you drag the fish up behind it because you weren't reeling it up.
Oh, wow.
And just fishing with having the family around and catching some nice bluegills and just watching that little spring and learning learning to read a spring bobber at 8 years old. That's kind of that's probably some of the early stuff I remember.
Very cool. Very cool. Luke, how about you, man?
Mine's along the same lines. I believe that I think I was younger in age. I think I was at least, I think it was 6, maybe 6 to 8, somewhere in there. But along the same lines, with family on the ice, because one of the big things for me was ice fishing, deer camp. Everything was very much family oriented, where you did deer camp for us in Wisconsin. It's a 9-day gun season, so you always got together for that. And that was almost like a holiday because you got to see people that time of year that you didn't get to see for another year. And it was along the same lines as it was for ice fishing for me. So we had all my uncles, aunts, everything else out. And this is back in the day of where the cabin style ice shelters were basically the only thing around at that time.
Sure.
And we were fishing on a local lake that Andrew knows very well and has done guiding on multiple times, did well on pike and crappie there. And we had, like I said, I was 6, 8 years old. I was cold. We don't have the gear that we have now. I think I had snow pants on and the cheapest boots known to man. So
Yeah.
Dad set me in cabin with my rod, which, like Andrew said, was basically a fiberglass pole with something that looked like a reel on it. And I'm pulling out bluegill after bluegill after bluegill, and I just kept tossing them out of the shack because I was so young that I could catch fish. I didn't know how to clean it, and my dad
Right.
trusted me with a knife, and he had good reason to. So after about 15 minutes of this going around, and like I said, the timestamp on it, there was no electric augers. He comes over with the big old Jiffy Model 30 and just starts it up and cranks a hole right next to the shack. He got so upset with me catching fish, and he was bouncing around, freezing his butt off, trying to catch fish, couldn't do anything. Here's his 6-year-old son kept tossing bluegills out the shack
awesome.
door. And as soon as he popped the hole, now neither one of us caught a fish anymore.
Yeah, scared them all away.
Yep.
That's cool.
Oh man. Yeah. And like you said, we've been fishing together since high school, but then we went on a fishing trip was it like 2016, 2017? No, maybe before that.
We'll get to that one. They got something coming up that I think we can fill in on that one.
All right. Yeah. But been fishing together a long time.
So. A long time. We've had a lot of good outings, a lot of good times, and we feed off of each other so well. That's why I think we do very well on our podcast, because we each put something different into the mix, and it keeps everybody entertained.
Let me ask you this, and I know for Jeff and I, it's me, but between you guys, who's the better fisherman?
Andrew, hands down.
No, honestly, it depends on one, because better fishermen as guides, seeing different people come out. There's been a few that I would say only a few that really kick my butt or show me something, but everybody has a different style. And I used to like show somebody like, you got to jig this way to get these fish. And now, or if they ask or if they're struggling, I definitely do that. But being somebody that does it different, a lot of times can show you something.
Mm-hmm.
Luke's a lot of times kind of that stubborn, like he's going to do it his way first.
Absolutely. Well,
I can relate to that.
He's 100% correct on that.
And what I get is I get a lot of time on the water, right? So on a lot of the bites where I'm taking him with, I probably have tried it or whatever, but on new water, he definitely shows me things a lot of times. So, and then with tip ups, especially the traditional tip ups, I would say
board tip ups.
Yeah, board tip ups. He's definitely much more methodical, much more, probably much more, um, a much better tip up fisherman from that side of things. Now, I think when we get into some other ones, and
Sure.
maybe more equal on, but
I'll agree with that.
So that leads us into the tip ups. So, Jason and I both fish with tip ups, but I would not call us tip up fishermen specifically, right?
okay.
I mean,
No.
we've certainly fished plenty with tip ups.
Well, let me ask a quick question. How many lines in Wisconsin?
3.
We're
Three lines.
Yeah.
3 per person. So we were talking about this in our last episode about how
Not even out yet.
Yeah, like not even out, but like tip ups, tip downs, like so much of how many lines you have start dictating how much you start using some of that other stuff.
Yeah.
But go on. So I just wanted to share that because in Iowa it's 2, Minnesota 2.
Yeah, 3, and we see that as like, Wisconsin, there's a huge tip up culture. And you go to Minnesota because of the 2 lines, obviously there's not as much. Like, people still use tip ups, but it's more of a like a kind of an indication of where they should go jig, or like just a set line. They use a lot more dead stick rods, that sort of thing, than a tip up.
Yeah.
North Dakota, you can have 4 lines, but I think the water is so massive that you get tied down too much by tip ups. And most people, like, the big thing out there is like jigging out of your truck, right? So you can't do that and effectively while tip up fishing. Michigan, I haven't spent enough time in to see their kind of tip up culture, but I would think that actually kind of is maybe similar.
Now, isn't Michigan 4 lines also, Andrew? I thought so.
Think it is.
Well, the Mississippi River has some different rules too.
Oh, yeah, depending on what side of the mist you're on and what pool and everything else. Yeah, that's it. Mississippi is such a animal in itself that you got to really be on top of your game and regs to know where you're at and what you're able to do.
Yeah. Yeah, we always say that. Check your regs. Don't take anything we say with respect to regulation to heart. So Luke, how did you tell us how you developed your passion for tip ups? How'd that become your jam?
It was really between my dad and my uncle that passed away 4 years ago, coming up next month. That was his thing. He would kind of jig a little bit, but his thing was that he would go out and sit in his truck, put his 3 tip ups in, and he would move them around. And when he would move them around, after he moved, he would take his truck, start, and go and drive. And I call them fish drives. People call them circling the wagons, everything else. Yeah. And we've talked more than enough on our podcast about vibrations, moving fish, and everything else. So that's kind of another thing with what we've learned now and looking back at what he did. Now I understand why it makes sense on everything. So that was just a big thing. When Uncle Shell came out, he was doing tip ups. He did tip up drives, and that man pulled out with so many big pike that it just made me sick. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me! And I'm out here, and he loved it when I was old enough to run the gas auger. He goes, go pop me a hole over there. Go pop me a hole over there. Go pop one over here. I'm like,
had you trolling for him?
Yeah, all of a sudden when I got to be about 9 or 10, all of a sudden it clicked. I'm like, all right, now I understand what's going on. He don't want to run the auger anymore, and I can actually hang on to the thing. So he wants me to go pop all the holes for everybody. I'm like, heck yeah, now this is starting to make sense.
And he had that. Did he have the Jiffy Model 32 that weighs like 45 pounds?
Oh yeah, where you could team drill on that thing, which trust me, Andrew and I have done, or both our dads have done.
If you're 9, you need a couple of 9-year-olds to run a Jiffy.
Oh man. Yeah.
Trust me, our kids are going to be spoiled with what's going on with the electric and everything else. Yeah. I tell my dad all the time, he still has a Jiffy Model 30 that runs in his garage, and he starts it 4 times a year. Spring, summer, fall, winter. He'll start it and make sure it runs. I told him, like, you keep that thing running, because as soon as my son is old enough to run an auger, he's going to figure out what his dad had to go through to be able to get holes through the ice.
Yeah. Kids need to struggle just a little bit, and I'm not good at making them, but dang it, it's good for them.
Right.
I feel like we had a manual, so that was a struggle for sure. Not from a weight perspective, but
We had a
Well,
spoon. We had the spoon
that's-
one when I was 8. That's what
Oh,
my
man.
dad used. Was the
Andrew's got a
spoon.
lot of stories on hand augers.
Yep.
I did not have a power auger up until, boy, I was almost 30. Probably like 27. And that thing was a pile of junk too. I mean, it was like a 70s auger, the first gas one I got. And I got it and basically got it working, drilled a few holes with it and ended up selling it and got my first ion,
wow.
which had its issues, that first gen ion.
Oh, the
So,
first gen ion. Okay.
Yep. So I had, 7-inch laser hand auger for quite a while. I mean, I
Wow.
drilled hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of holes with that 6-inch.
There's a reason your shoulders are junk from how
Yeah.
many. He had a system. It was funny. I wish I would have.
Oh,
Back
yeah.
when he had that, there was camera phones weren't prevalent or anything. I wish I would have had a camera phone at that time to be able to show his system of how he did it. Oh my god, I laughed the first time I saw it.
I'd basically, especially once the ice got thick, basically I put my hand on the top of the auger, put my head on my hand, get the other hand up there ready, and just basically more or less close my eyes and just keep it spinning as long as I could, because if you could see how far you were, it's like, oh man, we got a long ways to go. But if you just close your eyes till it went pop through, you'd get there pretty quick. And that laser will eat some ice.
Mhm.
And after a brief stint with Ion, not loving that, got a Milwaukee drill and used that up until last season was the first year I went back to Ion, actually.
Okay.
And drilled thousands and thousands of holes then between a Strike Master 6-inch hand auger with a Milwaukee drill, and then eventually probably 4 or 5 years ago got my Strike Light to make it a little lighter. But
Is that what you're still primarily using? Is in the 6-inch augers?
no, I'm running. So I last year I had tried out an Ion, and I ended up getting an Ion, and I went 8-inch because the 8-inch, that Ion Alpha,
Is a beast.
pretty much keeps up with my 6-inch laser and a Milwaukee drill. It might even be faster. It really does eat ice. Not to just push on it, but I've been very happy with that. Now, this year was my first year to test it on real ice, because last year I never got more than 8-9 inches.
Yeah, it was really
If we were lucky.
Yeah.
slim ice last year. Big time.
And I've burned out a battery a couple times now. They are cold sensitive, I would say, is the one thing. And I've heard, like,
You hear that, Oli, when you listen to the show? Buddy Oli always argues that, but Andrew, he's a professional guy.
they're cold. So, like, my Milwaukee batteries, I never worried about them hardly at all. Other than if I left them in the truck, I would charge them. And they were pretty cold hardy. And I've heard really good things about when Ion went Ion X. Those batteries are awesome for cold. These ones are more, they fit the original ones too. And so they went back in technology so that you could, if you were original Ion owner, you could run the Alpha with your back. Well, they're older. They're kind of the older tech where they do seem to get cold. So if I let it sit on the ice, don't take the battery out, I am seeing reduced holes. But I'm still not getting through 2 batteries with 21 inches of ice right now.
Yeah.
And we moved tip-up boxes like 35 times yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, for the average cat, they're going to last just fine.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, we're running. And, I'm drilling enough holes for yesterday. It was 5 people to run, 15 tip-ups.
Wow. Wow.
So
you mentioned boxes. What kind of describe, since we're sticking on tip-ups, which is definitely I think we talk about culture and fishing culture. Wisconsin, as we've talked about, is definitely a tip-up culture.
Yeah.
Very much so it is.
And I've had beaver dam tip ups. When I think of a tip up, it says Jeff, what's a tip up? I would say a beaver dam tip up in my brain is, and I know that's a brand, but that style of just the board and that goes in.
Yep.
But it sounds like you guys are running something a little different. What kind of rigs do you guys run?
Yeah. So, and it depends on what I'm running. I've got 5 beaver dams that I keep. Yep. As my board tip ups, they're always set up generally for pike. But then if I'm going walleye or panfish specific, I'm running bite me box tip ups, which are a heated tip up. And they've got those guys at Bite Me Box. Luke and I just did a seminar kind of day with Wisconsin Women Fish just on tip ups, and the owners came out. I know them pretty well. I had them come out and help us do it, and those guys are like PhD level tip up fishermen. I would argue because they don't have a ton of competition, but some of the best tip up fishermen in the world. Like they're very, very thorough. To where
I'll agree with that 110%. These guys know what they have going on. They have a very good product and they know what they're doing with it.
Can you give me like an example of something that you're like, holy cow, this is next level?
Well,
I'm kind of put you on the spot, but I'm curious.
No, so the biggest thing, or like there isn't a biggest thing because it's a whole system, but the key to it is a size 20 treble hook. Yep. So they run a size 20 mustad. And like the way that I would say like their PhD level is they came, and I've been running their stuff for a couple of years based on, I've fished with them several times. And like they literally took my hook and like, which brand are these? And it's a tiny hook. I mean, it's like, I'm like, I'm not exactly sure. I thought there was only one brand that made a 20. They're like, no, these must be Eagle Claw because they're not the mustads we normally run there. And then he pulled them out of the box and showed me they're the exact same size, but the weight of the Eagle Claw is probably triple. It's just a much beefier hook. And, they're explaining just based on that, like how much more that affects a minnow and the way it moves. And like just seeing this tiny little hook and being like, that's not what we normally run. That's heavier. Is crazy. And most people would think you could go up to an 18, which you can find anywhere and do just as well, but it is not even a little bit close.
No kidding.
Yeah. No. So that's one little part of it.
Like walleye specific or for northern as well?
Northern, they just run that system. They're not really northern pike guys.
Okay.
And like today we crust perch on them, and I've done really well crappie fishing on these tip ups because they're incredibly sensitive. Because the reel, instead of coming off this way and having spring tension, it's a fly reel and it rolls off that direction. So there's like no tension whatsoever. So you can catch a crappie or a perch. Walleyes are fairly easy to catch on them. They don't even feel it at all. It's like beaver dams are the best board tip ups there is. And they're extremely smooth and light. But if you pull on the two of them, it's probably 3 to 5 times less tension than a beaver dam.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll agree with that 110%. And if you go and look up Bite Me Box tip ups on their actual website or on their Facebook page, you're going to see the different fish that these tip ups pull in. Like I believe Dylan, one of their pro staff members, pulled in. I don't quote me on this. I can't remember if it was pike or muskie, but he pulled in a couple record. I wanted to say it was pike, where he pulled in like I think it was a 40-inch pike, and this is on a
4-pound.
4-pound fluorocarbon later with barrel swivel and a size 20 treble.
Yep.
People don't understand how small size 20 trebles are. When people try and go and find these, like Andrew even ran into it the first time he tried to order size 20s off of Amazon. He ended up getting too hot.
Yeah.
So it looks like a river anchor.
Basically a small grapple hook. Yeah.
For snagging in the spring, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're gonna throw some lead around that and go snag some stuff.
Look for some carp.
Yeah, go get some suckers. But so I would say that a size 20, just for reference, if you're looking at it, it would easily fit on a pencil eraser, and it's probably a little smaller than that.
I'd agree with that.
And so they aren't necessarily pike guys. They're eastern Wisconsin, where there's a ton of walleye fishing and perch fishing and big, massive flats. So western Wisconsin is much more pikey. Some parts of other parts are, but you get over here, our walleye bite's different. We don't have the Lake Winnebago River system. So unless you're on the Mississippi, walleyes are a morning and night. You're fishing other things. Pike tend to be pretty accessible.
Mhm.
So kind of what that means to me is they'll still run it as their system with the fluoro leader, 4 to 6 pound in the 20s, and they catch pike and they catch some big pike. You have to be really, really good though to get them in, and you definitely will break some off. Some will just it's fluoro. Some will just snap them. It's like fishing with 4 pound on your your crappie rig in the spring. And they'll even say like, yeah, you're going to lose some. Now what I've done to modify it, like I was talking about maybe the way that they could, look at some more of this pike market is to use like a serve strand, like a 15-pound tieable metal leader. So you're still looking at a very, very thin, it's like 4-pound thickness metal, but it's 15-pound test and it's not going to slice, and then still run those 20s on it. Or I would even go up to an 18 for pike, just so you can get through it like a shiner, but still way smaller than most people are running and way more finessey, but you just get more bites.
Yes, you do. Those bite me box tip ups. Back in with our podcast, I talked a lot of crap about these things
He
for a
was not
long time.
And they still talk to you guys after that.
Yeah, well, I was
And then
that
I
whole
got
episode. I'm cringing like, shut up, Luke.
that's basically what it was. And then we finally got out with the Bite Me Box guys and Larry Smith, and we were able to go and do an episode out with that. Oh, did I eat a lot of crow? Oh, I had to do a lot of backtracking for these boxes, because the biggest thing that these Bite Me boxes that people cringe on and is hesitant on is the size of them, because everybody thinks they are very cumbersome.
Yeah.
Which,
They're
to be
big.
honest, they kind of are. They're a little bit big and stuff like that. But once you see what they can do, you're willing to do it. You're willing to do it. You're gonna make a spot for these things.
They're a pricey tip up. Put it this way, they're pricey tip up. They're $150, and I have 7 because they do that much for me. And there's other guides I know that have 20. Like,
and need a whole trailer just for your
right. But you don't need to bring up first.
Oh,
we lost them.
He'll come back. Well, we're waiting for him.
He'll come back.
Luke, now's your chance to say whatever you want about Andrew, and he'll hear it on the show later, but he won't know that you said it. So
the nice thing about these, the nice thing about these Bite Me box tip ups is that when you're Andrew and I had the advantage of actually fishing with them.
Yeah.
So we see how they do this. I mean, like I said before, the biggest gripe about these things about how cumbersome they are. But you will go and put them in your arsenal because they're going to work. And what they do is, the first time I saw them come out, they took one of the torpedo sled tip ups or sleds from Menards that's skinny and long and everything else. They'll stack 4 to 6 of them depending on the length, and they'll take a nice long bungee cord, because they have a handle on the top of them. They'll stack them in there. They'll hook the bungee cord on the front, run the bungee cord through the handles, and hook it on the back. And they'll daisy chain everything out there, especially if you have a snow dog.
Yeah.
And they'll do it that way. These things are well worth the money of taking out there. I screwed up this last weekend when we had the tip up clinic, because I should have bought some off of them. I really should have. And I
did they have a tip up clinic special or something that you're like, oh, I better get some?
Yeah. Well, especially since they were there, you wouldn't have to worry about shipping.
Yeah.
So tell us about this tip up clinic a little bit. What was that about?
The tip up clinic, what we did was put on with Another Striker Pro staff member, Angie Benson, came and talked to Andrew while we were out with Striker after the St. Paul Ice Show one night and talked about wanting to do this. And Andrew was all for it and wanted to get the Bite Me Backs guys on to be able to teach women, to be able to do what the guys do. And
Sure.
no disrespect to women or anything else. There's a lot of women that could fish me under a table, no problem. And with this tip up clinic, we were just, there's something that they came out where you didn't have your husband, your boyfriend, or anything like that. You just wanted to come out and learn. And we had people out there to be able to help you learn. And we had, I want to say it was 10 to 14 women out with us that day. Age range from, so I'm 37. They had to be from, I want to say, high 20s. Though we had a woman out there, I want to say she was closer to, and I'm probably going to eat a lot of croak for this one, but
danger zone.
You can just say there was a range of ages. Yes.
Range of ages. So I want to say from 20 to
older.
Yeah, 75. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And she was out there with her garden stool that you would go and have the knee pad on and have the handholds on to be able to push yourself up. And she was out there fishing with everybody. And
That's
we
cool.
had 2 auto resorts set up. We had Eskimo 850 set up, all insulated, heaters and everything, ready for you to kick on to be able to get out of the wind. And I think there was maybe 5 of these women that shot in there for maybe like 10 minutes.
Oh.
And then we're out. And the wind was just ripping last Saturday.
It was really windy.
It was stupid windy. And we were in the part of the lake we were in. There was a little bit of a cove where we were kind of blocked. But some of the Bite Me boxes we had out there were actually closer to the main lake channel. If you got out there, you developed a lean because it was blowing that hard. It was a lot of fun. They were awesome. They were asking questions that a lot of anybody else that's been on the ice that wouldn't ask. It was fun for me just to be able to pass on a little bit of knowledge. I know I don't claim to be an expert on anything. I like ice fishing. I'll pass my knowledge on. And they were asking questions about, well, what do you do with this? What do you do with that? How do you set this up? What do you do with this? And minnow size, hook size, line tension. It was a lot of fun. We had a great time out on the ice with those ladies last weekend.
That's cool. I just think anytime you can teach people, and they can pass it on, it's something we really enjoy too. I think that's just really neat that you guys were able to do that.
Yeah. And
guys,
welcome back, Andrew.
Sorry about that.
No problem. It happens to everybody.
We hear you, but we don't see you.
Working on that.
There he is.
I finally got all the kids and dogs to bed, and then my phone died.
No, you're in the thick of it, man. That's how it goes. That's how it goes.
I feel like I could learn a ton from you guys from tip up fishing because like I said, we do tip ups, but often our tip ups are like, hey, we're going to sit here and jig. But of course, we could put one rod next, for fishing together. That's how we like spread out, right? Those are scouting holes sometimes to say, hey, we're going to put one over here and over there and kind of move them around to see maybe there's some fish over there. But you guys approach it in a different way. I think it'd be awesome.
And especially going back on that, since we're allowed 3 lines of Wisconsin, the biggest thing that for me, what I do, I always have one jig rod, obviously what I'm doing, but the way I work, especially my board tip ups, I let my board tip ups soak for at the most 30 to 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm checking them at like 15 to 20 to make sure they're not wrapped in weeds, they're not wrapped around stumps, everything else. I got them set at different depths. If something's not working for me, then I already have holes drilled down a shoreline or a point or whatever I did my research on, and I'm moving tip ups. If those things haven't gone off, I'm moving them right now after that time allotted. So that way I'm not just having something sit there that's basically an anchor to me. So that way, if I move my tip ups down, I can now pop jig holes down also to be able to keep it up with my tip ups.
No, that
People think tip ups are a anchor to you. Absolutely not, because you're not fishing them right.
I think
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think to add on to what Luke said and what I've been kind of trying to go Facebook Live with the guide service lately, and the big thing I'm stressing is you got to put in the work. Like jigging takes its own work and its own preciseness, and I can definitely appreciate that. I've done a ton of that, but if you want to be good at tip up fishing, you get lucky by just to sit it, forget it, tip up. To be good at it, you got to put in the work. You got to be moving them. Like I said yesterday, we set up on structure. I had my boxes, my bite me boxes were gone all in a tight clump, and we started to pop just one, and none of the rest of them. Were about 45 minutes in, and just that one is. So we started moving it, moving all the rest and moving past that, and like I said, we literally probably moved a box 40 to 50 times and moved all of them, at least like the whole fleet of them, 10 times to stay in front of fish and to stay jigging where it was active. And like at 2:00, I think partly because we'd put a lot of miles on already, and partly in my mindset, I thought maybe the fish might move back towards structure. We just kind of stopped following it, and we had a whole hour of dead time where we were averaging a flag every 5 minutes to 10 minutes all day, except for that hour where we decided, like, okay, we're just not going to move them. And we just kind of got lazy, kind of got tired, totally stopped. And that's there was 11, how many I had? That was 10 basically panfish style tip ups. So, like, if you just throw a couple out and leave them all day, you can catch a fish, but you're not going to catch multiples, and you're not really going to stay.
We certainly are guilty of getting lazy with tip ups. Some of it happens to do when we do our annual ice fishing trip with the other two guys. It's always like 25 below zero. And so you punch a hole and you're like, it'll be okay. Good luck out there, buddy.
Right.
And we do, but it's been years since we just had some crappy cold weather. And so we get a little lazy, and we're getting a little older. And so you guys are invigorating me. I'm motivated. I'm motivated now.
That's the thing that always hits up too, is whenever you get, it never fails. You set something up, you have ice fishing outing with a bunch of friends and everything else. We're gonna go do this, and it never fails. Where it's the worst conditions you can ever imagine.
Right.
You're trying to make the best of it and everything else, and you got to do what you can with it. I mean, and it never fails. That's how it ends up. You pick it, and it's shit weather.
We had it. Whenever I have somebody up that I really want to show, like a family member, close friend, buddies from college or something, I have them up, and like I'm all amped, like I'm on ice all the time. I'm a guide, like we should go have some fun. These guys I want to show off what we can do, right? Ugh, it's never good. This last one, like we had this mancation set up. Guys had rented a house on the body of water I guide. The week before they're coming up, we're catching 9 to 10 inch gills. We're doing pretty good. We're getting pike at will, and some big, some 30-inch plus pike, enough to be fun.
Wow.
And some, perch have been okay. They show up, and it wasn't even that much of a cold front, just a little cool down and a little bit of snow on the ice, and it tanked everything. And we caught fish, but like 10 fish a day for poor guy. It was not good.
Yeah, we've been, I've been saying this lately is the time picks me. I don't pick the time I get to go fishing.
Right.
It picks me, and then you just do. You just have to. But if you only pick the opportunity
with that, with 100%, as much as I'm able to get out, especially with you guys with having a podcast and everything else, you try and pick everything on what you can do, especially with the family life and everything else. It's like I'm fishing this weekend. We're going to make the best of it. I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm going to be able to do, but
We're going to do it.
I'm making sure I can get out on the ice.
Yep.
And
And that's life, man. And that's the grind, and that's what makes it fun too at some time.
Yeah, it does. I mean, a lot of the other thing is too, I mean, everybody thinks that ice fishing is all about catching fish, but at the same time, it's also getting out with people that you haven't seen in a long time
Mhm.
and just getting that annual outing on just to be able to have fun. And that's the biggest thing with ice fishing is if you're not having fun, you're not doing something right.
Right. And just the community of it, that's what we love kind of about tip up fishing is it's not everybody segregated in a shack, by twos or whatever. You're out there all calling out a number to see who goes next or racing each other to tip ups if you got the energy and the youth for that. Or,
There's another story
we discontinued the tackling and tripping thing.
We used to tackle and trip
about 8 years ago. 9.
Yeah.
You guys are a little younger than us. About 8 or 9 years. You're like, do we want to interrupt our fishing trip with a trip to the ER or not?
Right. Yeah. Blowing a knee for a tip up just doesn't seem worth it.
No, just not anymore.
No.
So, go ahead.
Oh, I just to say, but yeah, that community, and like Luke and I have said a billion times on our podcast, it's very rarely about the fish. It really,
yes, it's you a lot of the outings you don't remember fish you caught. You remember the memories that you had out there and the experience you had by doing it, and that's the reason we do it. I mean, catching fish is basically just a bonus. And it's a nice bonus, don't get me wrong, but it's a bonus at the same time. You enjoy the people you're out with, you enjoy the atmosphere, and just doing everything you can.
Hey, do we want to pivot a little bit? I want to hear a little bit about Gullickson Bait.
Gullickson Bait Company, beaver tail bait.
Tell us about that.
So,
welcome to the St. Paul Ice Show.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the condensed version. I mean, I've used it. So.
Oh, you have,
but I don't know that a lot of our listeners, a lot of our listeners have, and maybe some haven't. But it's certainly a unique product. It's a very unique product.
Yep. So it's a meat-based product. It's made out of meat. So you've got plastics and you've got live bait. This is kind of in between, right? So it's not live meat, but it's much more natural. I always kind of compare it to like if you're trying to get a neighbor's dog to come to you, you had a rubber squeaky toy. You might get him there, but if you had raw chicken, he'd be over there in a heartbeat. We're somewhere in between. It's closer to the chicken than the plastic would be, right? And then the movement on beaver tail is like nothing else out there because it's meat and because of its like buoyant, oily nature. It moves with your heartbeat. Like if you want it to stop moving, you actually have to set your rod down. Because it transmits just a ton of movement, very, very natural movement. It looks like a small bug in the water. And then our real claim to fame is durability, where we're catching 30 to 50 fish on a piece. Like it doesn't rip or tear like plastic either. So
half a piece.
Yeah, half a piece. We cut it. So I got to figure out some manufacturing to make it exactly what I want. Still, it's hard material to work with, but if I cut a piece in half the long way, and sometimes even in thirds, so very, very thin, it'll move like crazy, and you're still going to get that durability that blows pretty much everything else away. And it's a really, really good finesse bait for when especially gills are known for just looking over a bait. If I go down to a really short piece of it, cut really thin, and pair it with a small tungsten, and if I can't catch them with that, like you maybe a single spike will get, but it's going to be a really, really tough bite. Throwing the whole boat at jigging that day.
Yeah.
So where'd the bait come from? How did you develop it? What's the origin story of that?
It is actually made out of beaver tail. Dad is a trapper, and he knew a long line trapper, and was fishing across the bay from him, open water actually, and watched him catching a bunch of gills. My dad wasn't catching much. He goes, hey Leo, what what are you using? He said, beaver tail. And he's kind of like, yeah, fine. Don't tell me that. Yeah. And
Yeah.
they get off the lake, and sure enough, he's using a beaver tail. He's cutting pieces on the water. And my dad's, as we've mentioned, a little quirky. And he just carries around this beaver tail with him for years.
Like a whole beaver tail and just kind of
like a whole beaver tail. He just packs it in with, just like it's normal. You throw you got your tackle box, got your auger, got your beaver tail, and then your rods. Something's not right there. But no, he would for years. He was out in Devil's Lake, and if you believe the version of the story that he tells, through the tackle box that the perch couldn't catch it. Nobody was catching. Started using beaver tail, and within an hour, him and his group were getting followed around by the perch patrol. I don't know if that's true, but they caught a lot of perch. For probably about a decade. I just thought he was crazy. Or like, I thought, yeah, you could catch a fish with it, but whatever. And I think in there, I probably tried it once with very little confidence. Like anything you try with no confidence, it didn't work. And then we were up on, that's so long ago, I even dropped the name of the lake, Big Chautauqua Lake, known for its, it had bluegill capital, Wisconsin, right? And we're up fishing. We get the shack set up, and I realize my waxies are dead. I'm down to 2 spikes. Dad's got this puck full of beaver tail that he's cut up. And half of it's already, people still do cut it right off the tail, but it starts going bad really fast, right? So he's got half this puck, and the whole top layer is already like a yellow nasty. We peel that off, and we get to a couple of fresh pieces and a fish with it. We're both catching some fish, and I think we ended up with like a 1-man limit, so like 20 gills or something, or a 2-man limit, like 20 gills on that lake. And I'm like, it works. It catches some fish. We used 1 piece a person. Like, that's crazy. You'd go through for 20 bluegills, you'd go through countless waxies.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just countless. I'm like, why wouldn't this work? People are selling plastic pieces to fishermen. They're dumb to use it, right? And I was too. And so then there was a process of figuring out how to package it, how to preserve it, because it would oxidize so fast that it was within hours start being bad. At first, we were just preserving it, sticking it in the bag dry, and selling it. That didn't last real long because they went bad. And we're still working on the best preservation we can. But now we've got a product that is shelf stable at room temp for 3 to 4 months. And if you want to keep it for next season, you throw it in the refrigerator, not the freezer. Throw it in the refrigerator, and you'll get up to. Are you on your 3rd year with yours, Luke?
Yeah, I finally had I've 3rd year with mine, and the bags that are 3 years old finally started to go bad on me, and probably that was more user error and stuff like that. And I'll take all the blame on that one, but it's as long as you don't let this stuff freeze with his proprietary solution that he has in it. This stuff it's awesome. I got people for my friends that don't know Andrew calling me, goes, well, can you get me some of that? I'm like, well, I'll see if I can get some to you. And how many colors are you up to now, Andrew?
I've got 9 colors. I don't think I'm going to make more blue, so I'll probably be at 8 colors. And right now, as this is being recorded, I'm still fighting through a back order. Wow. So,
okay.
Good, bad problem to have, right?
What colors do you have?
Like available? Oh, what are my?
What are your colors that you have?
Oh boy! All right, so white, pink, purple, brown, chartreuse, orange, blue isn't on the website. Blood red.
Blood red is awesome for gills. I will attest to that one 100%. Especially for this area of Wisconsin, everybody's looking for that red plastic or red anything. You take this beaver tail and that's the nice thing about the beaver tail too, especially with his block format that he has. You're able to customize this to what you want. Your split tail, your ribbon tail, whatever, split it down the middle, do what you need to it, and test it in a hole before you drop it and drop it down. And you're going to be pulling the most finicky fish you're gonna be able to catch on this stuff. It is awesome.
That blood red is everybody's, a lot of guys in North Dakota and like tons of people. Bloodworms are a huge part of what fish eat. I've been seeing them getting puked up by perch lately. And if you get a couple thin pieces of the blood red one on the bottom of a spoon, it's been a very good finesse jigging bite for like it's kind of a weird like power finesse, right? You're putting out a spoon, but then going super light. It's almost like fishing spikes on a spoon, because you get just those little dangly bloodworm imitations on a big profile.
Another one that's nice for you on the spoon is your orange.
Orange and chartreuse,
the orange that represents like fire tiger and everything like that, especially for walleye or perch, because they're eating each other and you get this orange down there and it's awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds like we got some shopping to do, Jason.
Always. These interviews always cost me money. Every dang interview. Like, there's something else I need.
Right. So the main bait we have is the panfish bites, which we've been talking about. And I've got it was developed for the summer, but a really interesting bait called the living leech. And to describe it is basically it looks like a 3.5 inch to 4 inch leech. And there's nothing out there that even comes close to looking as much like a leech as it does. Yeah. And I think I haven't actually put a lot of time on it on the ice, but it would fish really, really well on the back of a jigging wrap to give you a longer profile and to make the jigging wrap soar farther. It works great. It looks great, at least fishing in a tank and messing around with it. Just fished on like a 6 mil jig head as almost especially the white as almost a like minnow imitation, because it's got a real like kick to it. You kind of have to take a look at the videos and stuff on Facebook.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do that.
But so I would say it's actually my better bait, but still kind of developing as far as what it can do for ice fishing. Open water, it's a beast. This weekend doing the women's event that I came back in and heard about, cooking on the ice, getting the hard shack out on the ice, getting a hub set up, and everything was as close to that as we've gotten. And I think we're ready to just get out there and spend a whole night fishing.
Sweet.
Yeah,
do you guys see our live that we put out from that or no?
I did not see that. No, I'll catch that.
So we did a little live for the Ice Up podcast and everything, and I actually got a wood fire pizza oven out on the ice.
Oh my gosh.
Wood fire pizzas. We did bear brats, we did polar sausage. We put on because anywhere we go, I'm usually ended up at Camp Cook, which I'm fine with.
I can appreciate
that's that. Jason. That's not me. That's Jason. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did wood fire pizzas out on the ice, even in the ripping winds.
Yeah.
That's dedication.
Blocked the wind off. I got pizzas cooked up, and everybody thought that was the greatest thing, because that's one of the biggest things for me too, is cooking on the ice. I love doing that.
I struggle because I love cooking on the ice. I mean, I like that, but I'm so driven to like catch a fish that I'm like, I don't want to stop and cook. So I'm usually cooking and I'm fishing at the same time. And what they don't see going, the food doesn't hurt them.
For years, up until I was a guide, I don't think I really ate on the ice much. When I'm fishing, it's fishing, right? Yeah. Like I can eat later, you can eat when you're dead type of thing.
Yep.
But then just being on the ice, and I think it was probably with Larry Smith, where it was like, get something warm in your belly around between noon and 2. And it just, everybody's spirits get lifted. One day it saved our whole trip. Log span. So I was just trying too hard. I was basing chasing. And actually I found out I had one guy that was really, really local that was coming out with me. I mean, he lived 2 blocks from me. He's since passed, so I can tell the story. And I took him out to community hole number 1, right? That had been hitting. I mean, there'd been good fish there. It was just kind of kind of dead. So then there's another lake that's generally known for smaller fish, but a lot of numbers. And it was kind of in an up year where it was like 9 to 10 inch crappies, 7 to 8.5 inch gills, like good keepers, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I thought, like, okay, we'll just go get an easy, we'll just go to these two kind of more community type spots, not show off any of my, prized areas.
Yeah.
And so they don't burn them later, and we'll just go catch fish, right? And at noon, we had caught nothing.
Ooh.
Oh. No pressure for you.
And I'm not even seeing them on a live scope. Like, there's just nothing.
Oh man.
And I'm like, and I've drilled 60 holes at this point. We've switched lakes once. Like, we're not finding fish. This is not going well. And I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm exhausted. And I'm just spinning out. Let's just stop them and make some brats. And I make some brats up there, done eating. The one guy grabs his brat and he just puts his backs down and he goes, oh, here's some. And from when he said here's some to when we had a 3-man limit on the ice was less than an hour and 30 minutes.
Wow.
And what it took was just stopping. And I drilled so many holes that the fish filtered back in, and they're really, really, really skittish fish. So if you drill a hole, like they'll run 90 feet and they're out of scope range, you're not finding them. But just by slowing down, being quiet, letting those fish filter back in, we ended up figuring it out. And then we could scope them and see which way they're getting spooked and get ahead of them and just crush them. But we had to stop and eat some first.
Sometimes you need to eat something.
Yep.
Absolutely. I'll agree with that 100%.
Yeah,
you
look
can't run on empty all the time.
You look like you've been eating something, Luke.
Yeah, this coming from you. That's funny.
Moving on.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about podcasts. We know a little bit about podcasting these days, a little bit more than we did maybe 7 years ago or 8 years ago when we started this. But what kind of got you guys started? Hey, we should do a podcast. How did that come about?
I'll tell from my perspective, and Luke might have a different perspective on it, but Luke's always talked about podcasts. He always listened, and he was always referencing them. And a big part of my whole beaver tail bait guiding everything was a thing called the Linder's Fishing Careers Workshop. And Al Linder hosted it. It was all huge industry names. Joel Nelson would come, Matt Johnson, and they'd tell their stories on how they got onto the ice. And there was 3 or 4 of them. I'm the only one that went to all of them because it was just huge for networking and meeting people and just would revive me every year to push forward. And the second one, they started talking podcasts, and I was kind of up and coming. And I really wanted to do it. I still lived 3.5 hours from Luke. So I bought all the stuff, like literally got it all from Amazon. I had been on a podcast and they told me kind of what to get, some of the stuff to get. I got it all. Couldn't even figure out how to put it together. Threw it in a bag and didn't do anything with it. But Luke and I would still, whenever I was back around home, we'd talk about ice fishing and fishing, and mainly ice fishing, and talk about doing a podcast. And then I moved back, and right away I hadn't even been here a month, and I'm like, we need to do an ice fishing podcast.
Yeah.
I'm on Strikers Pro Team. I think we can get them to help out.
Yep.
And like we sit here and talk ice fishing for 2 hours while drinking beer. Like,
right.
Yeah.
But somebody else probably want to hear this crap too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty close to how it ended up for us, because I'm a truck driver by trade. I run out of listening to music and yada 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 on everything else, and when it gets to be after deer season for Wisconsin, I'm looking at ice fishing.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out a good ice fishing podcast because there was not too many. I mean, you guys were up and I was listening to you guys, and we were Shack Talk was a kind of a thing, but it kind of wasn't. I mean, there's a weird kind of lull that hit in there for everybody. So I told him, like, well, we could try and figure out and do one of these or whatnot. And then 2 weeks, 3 weeks after we got done talking, that Andrew ended up getting brought on for Striker.
Yeah.
And he had mentioned about doing a podcast for this and everything else. And I'm in the middle of work and everything else. And thankfully I just gotten on a run, and he called me, I was just about to leave. He texted me, he goes, "You able to talk?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I text him, "Yep." And it wasn't 35 seconds later, he gives me a call. He goes, "Well, this is this, and this." And we started our podcast. And if anybody has listened to our first 2 seasons of our podcast, and we say it every time we go on, we're sorry, because the first 2 seasons were rough. Oh my God, they were not good.
Just in general, if you're listening to us degenerates, we're sorry.
We're the same way. I think we think the same way. Like, I think the biggest thing is when we've said, so we just released our 100th episode, right? And somebody once sent us, and this was maybe we had 80 episodes at the time, and like, "Yep, I found your podcast. I just listened to the entire thing, and you just
All
listened
of
to
them.
like 100 hours of
In a row. Like over the court, like there was with this guy, he said, and God bless him. He's probably still listening.
Yeah.
Like he was he was a welder, I think, and he just started listening one day and listening to them all straight through the next.
Holy cow.
Like
I remember you guys
poor
talking about
IQ
that.
probably dropped 10 points just doing that.
Yeah.
But God bless him.
Yeah.
You know, God bless him. My
But no,
wife doesn't even want to listen.
And we always talk about too, the other thing
I'm
is,
glad my wife doesn't listen.
oh, my wife listens.
Jeff's wife's list. So I just throw stuff in.
Trust me, I know. I listen to you guys
Yeah,
enough
yeah,
that
yeah.
his wife listens.
I guess the good thing though is, we've been doing it, and I'm sure if you listen to some early episodes, I mean, it's not like somebody gave us the podcasting book. Like, we just kind of figured it out, right? I mean, and
Whole
so
thing with us. Absolutely.
right. And so the first episodes are like, yeah, I probably didn't have the right equipment. I mean, we probably still don't have the best equipment, but you do, and you don't, it doesn't stop you from it. And it's been a great ride.
That's part of a podcast. And Luke some of them were bad quality, but I think you're more worried about it than others because you listen to so many and you hear the quality. But I think that's part of it. People see that it's regular people learning, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And nobody's got millions of dollars tied up into equipment. I mean,
well, guys, I think what we have left to talk, although we could probably talk till 2 in the morning.
I'm sure we could. Yeah,
this is going good. This is a fun time tonight.
What we want to make sure we get from you guys is your ice fishing legend.
Oh, ice fishing legend.
Did Jeff warn you about this?
I don't know if I did or not. I was a little.
I knew it was coming. That's why I stopped.
You've listened to enough of our shows. You know where we're headed with this.
So what I'm going to do is, Andrew and I have been on enough fishing adventures together that I'm going to let him pick an ice fishing adventure, and I bet I'm going to be able to come in and tell the story part of the story he doesn't remember.
Okay.
Ice fishing okay. So basically just get into one of the stories of our.
Yeah. When we say legend, it's a story. Just like your best.
Like that. Like, what is that go-to story that when you're.
Oh, probably our genesis as like I don't know. It really was. We were already friends. We kind of solidified the friendship and come back. It really got us ice fishing together as a thing. Like, we really understood that we could ice fish together because we've talked on our show, especially going on a man trip or even just friends trip. If there's ladies involved now that they're getting into the sport, you got to enjoy fishing with the people you're with, or it's miserable.
Correct.
I know I've been on a couple, 1 or 2 miserable trips. This was not one. But so we went out to North Dakota. My dad, Luke's dad.
I was hoping you would tell this story.
Yep. My dad, Luke's dad, and the both of us all in a regular sized Tahoe.
No, we would say regular sized Tahoe. This is a 96 Tahoe 2-door.
Like a Bronco Blazer kind of situation more than
4 guys, auger strapped to the top. So from where we were leaving Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin to North Dakota is probably a
45 minutes, supposed to be.
what was it?
7 hours and 45 minutes if you Google Earth it or Google Map it.
Yeah, we got on the main drag where it was at the time 65. His dad's doing a 52.
My dad is still learning where the cruise control is on a vehicle, and he's really pretty against it or people going over the speed limit.
This is awesome.
Or the speed limit sometimes. So yeah, the whole trip is a story. We'll see which parts get up to us. But so yeah, it was a 4-door, Luke, but it felt like a tiny car because we had so much stuff. We were still bringing the kitchen sink. We had a trunk just for propane. I don't know why we had so much propane. There was like 45 1-pound bottles.
That's why we had so much propane.
I suppose, but we could have brought like one 20-pound tank, but we had like, I don't know, countless 1-pound bottles in a trunk that took up half the back. 3 shacks and way too much stuff. And like you said, augers stuck to the top rack. We're going to do a straight drive out through. Should be.
We called this the death march because what we did is we drove out there.
What time do we leave? Like 6 at night.
Between 6 and 8 at night. We got out there between First Light in North Dakota. We didn't go to the hotel room. So when we go to fish, this entire everything we had for the hotel room and everything ended up on the ice.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, sure.
Because it was miserable.
The clothes and the augers had other stuff with them, so they were out. I mean, and we got out there, and Luke had a Strike Master auger, which was lighter weight and a little bit faster with those laser blades. But we'll back up. Okay, so we leave at between 6 and 8 in the morning, in the evening, and we're driving out. And it's probably sometime around midnight. Luke wakes up, and we're slightly out of Chippewa 2 hours later, and
yes,
he's going like, holy crap. So he ends up taking over driving. Apparently, I've heard this story mostly third hand. And,
because your dad got, I don't know how far out. He got us through the cities in Minnesota.
Yeah, 2 hours. Goes about 4 hours.
Yeah, where we should have been damn near in North Dakota by this time. He goes, well, I kind of want to take a nap. Does anybody want to drive? I go, yes.
There was a hand.
I go, yes, I'll start driving. So he jumps in the back. My old man sitting next to me in the passenger seat, and I put the hammer down. And my old man looks over, looks at the speedometer, goes, well, how fast are you going? I go, 90. I'm making up time.
Wow.
He's flying. We got from like just outside, just on the other side of St. Paul, Minneapolis to like Fargo in like an hour and a half. I swear. Wow. It was like stupid fast. But I remember we stopped at a gas station there called the Loaf and Jug.
Loaf and Jug.
The Loaf and Jug.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I think I lost them on my phone now when it died, but I had pictures of the Loaf and Jug, and that was like, or in North Dakota, and we got some stuff, and so we drive out, get out on the ice, and I had done. I don't even do this now, but I had done like months of map study for this thing. Like, we were going to these spots, and I was very technical where we're getting. We drive out on the first point, which is a pretty known spot, but in this huge lake that is Devil's Lake, drive out on the first one, and it's still dim light. We get out and start fishing. I notice all these clam shacks around. We're right. The people that are next to us are all clients for the Perch Patrol, and like right as first light comes, like there's a 28-inch walleye being taken a picture of, and we're starting to catch some fish. I'm like, yeah, did it right. 6 months of work, dude, paying up right here. And if we caught a few perch, a few walleyes, it wasn't like an amazing bite, and we didn't know what we were doing yet out there. Like we were still figuring out the way these fish work and how to get that bite. We didn't do a lot of walleye and perch fishing locally, so it was different.
we're still figuring that out. We caught a few fish. Probably should have capitalized on a ton. But we got some. And I think we ended up. Did we fish all day that day?
Yes, we fished all
Yeah.
day. That's why it's called the Death
Wow.
Mark. We drove out that day, got on the ice, spread everything for our hotel room out on the ice, and fished till dark.
Yep. And yeah, for sure. And I really understood. I'd been on to Devil's Lake a few times, and I'd kind of seen this Wisconsin fishing. I don't know if it actually is Wisconsin fishing anymore, but at that time, you're going to camp in an area because your lake is usually only 500 to 1,000 acres tops.
Mhm.
You're gonna take this bay and you're gonna basically put your crap all over it. You're gonna camp in it. That's not Devil's Lake fishing, or that's not North Dakota fishing. So you could see Wisconsin guys from a mile away,
Oh, absolutely.
and we were definitely, you can see us from 10 miles. We had so much crap on the ice, and we caught.
And we were the only ones that would keep pike out there.
Yeah,
Like we set up for pike, and the pike out there were gorgeous.
they're great. Oh, it's an amazing pike fishery, and yeah, I think the first day kind of came and went. We had some decent fishing, and we were all excited for day number 2, where we were fishing, there was this old stacker that was flooded going up into a silo.
This is my favorite part of the trip.
And I'm not gonna flick you off here, I swear. And so we go and we start the morning and we catch, like, I think I caught a walleye. Maybe your dad caught a walleye, Luke. And it's pretty slow though. We're not marking anything. It's kind of a cold front day. And I'm like, everything I know says we should be fishing deeper for the perch. This side of the lake shallow. This is walleye territory. We need to be in 40 feet of water. And part of it was dock talk type stuff. I'd seen people clean and fish and whatever. But I'm like, we should be over here. So we end up driving around the entirety of Devil's Lake.
Oh, yes, we did.
That's a trek around the whole lake.
Yes.
Wow.
And at twice we pulled on the lake, and my dad's like, "No, we're not going to go on here. There's a crack down there a mile," and pulls off. And I'm like pulling hair out. And at this point, I like Luke's family is a big blackberry brandy family. There's some stories about that too, but I was to this day, I could do the Pepsi challenge with blackberry brandy and NyQuil.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that I'd ever get it right.
They're
the same thing. Robitussin makes them both.
You don't have taste buds. No, they don't.
And so I wasn't a huge fan. I would drink it, whatever, a little bit. And I'm sitting in the back of this Tahoe, just vein bulging in my head. I'm developing a twitch. I reach over with my hand, Luke. I'm like shaking it at him. He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Give me your flask." I have to like finish off a flask of blackberry brandy. And that Luke's dad had passed back at this point, and he was just ticked that I finished it all because
wow.
And we get back, and the worst part of it all is we end up fishing in the holes we drilled that morning.
Oh no! We drove around the whole way back.
We literally drove. At one point, I'm like, let's just go pike fishing. We can't agree on anything. We all can agree on pike. Let's just go pike fishing. We drove onto that. We almost got stuck and drove back out.
Oh my gosh.
Went back to the holes we started.
Okay, let's back this up a little bit. The spot he wanted us to go pike fishing on were drifts that if he stopped that vehicle, we weren't getting off of it.
That's fair enough, but we could have walked out to the pike spot. It's 100 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
You walk 100 yards. That's funny.
That's the death march. Like drive there, fish all day. That drive around the lake. That's a death march
and
for sure.
The best part of that trip, we were out there for what was it? 4 days? 4 or 5 days?
Like 4 or 5. Yeah,
4 or 5 days. The last day we were there in North Dakota, it was 32 degrees and 0 wind.
It was crazy.
Wow.
Yep.
In North Dakota.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's always windy out there.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, there wasn't a breath of wind. The reason there wasn't a breath of wind because the next day there was a hell of a storm coming in.
That's right. We were there 4 days. We were supposed to be there 5 when we got up.
Yeah, the storm cased us out.
Wow.
And the last day you're on a fishing trip, so we fished 4 days and everything like that. And the last day we're basically doing pike fishing, and the pike flags were just popping.
Wow.
Like you'd set one, you get back to try and jig, and one would go off.
Wow.
Andrew's yelling at me. I think we were on, I don't know, flag number 19 or something like that. I had just got back from mine, and one popped, and he goes, "Get here, get here, get here, get here." I not my normal pike routine. I went to pull it. I set the line. If there wouldn't have been a pike on the other end of that line, I would have tipped over backwards.
Yeah, he literally like reached down and pulled up on the line, and the fish on the end of the line was the only thing that kept him from totally just flopping. And we caught some nice fish, and it was kind of interesting because that day we both I really figured out the morning program, how to capitalize, because morning walleye bite was short and it was a big flat, so the perch were really spread out. So the middle of the day was slow, and then the end of the day you had power hour again.
Cool.
But that last day, since I'd figured it out, I had my walleyes by 9:30. Luke was probably done by 11.
Yep.
Your dad had 3, and I think my dad only had 1 or 2. So we
helped our dad
to try and get that, and we wanted them to catch their own, but we're helping them out, trying to make, we're netting for them and everything like that. So, and then I think we all did finally limit out by that evening. But yeah, that's why you and I started pike fishing on that flat, because it's like we're kind of done other than helping them. And so we kept on drilling holes. We missed a big part of this too.
Yes, we did.
We kept on drilling holes farther and farther away down the flat, and our tip ups never moved because it kept going up. So that was the other part of the run, and why I was so exhausted, because we were at like dang near a quarter mile from you barely see the flags. Not a quarter mile, that's an exaggeration.
Yeah,
but
it was far away.
Good 300 yards. Yeah.
And this is back before you had the ice fishing gear. We're still out there in walls and Carhartt bibs and everything else, everything that was up water and
just
wet boots. Yeah. Yep. We missed a whole part where we got there, and Luke's new faster, lighter augers, newer, Strike Master gas at that time, wouldn't start.
Oh wow.
So we had my dad's Jiffy Model 30.
Oh, so heavy.
And so we were drilling, and it was like you had to spread out and drill a lot of holes and find them. And we had a Jiffy Model 30.
Wow. Wow.
But that Jiffy started and ran.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, first pull. Yep.
Oh yeah.
I almost winced when it did, though, because I'm like, maybe we'll go into town and fix the strike master. Nope, we got an auger.
We got an auger.
So especially there's a lot of times where that's Jiffy Model 30 always hits second gear, because you would hit and all of a sudden you get the high end on it and it would just kick in. It's like, oh my God. And you team drilled out there because you
there's a lot of team drilling. Yep. There was a lot of team drilling. And then when you find what was it on yours? Your spark plug? I don't remember.
Fuel line.
Oh, your fuel line.
My fuel line had cracked down off the bung about a quarter inch, so it was dripping fuel. So I just snipped it and put it back on. I had to stretch it to get it on there.
The rest of the week,
but at least it was an easy fix on the ice.
Yeah.
And your dad lost a fish that I think he stopped fishing for a while. It was that big.
Wow.
That was the first time we had seen a snow bear.
Oh yeah, they were fairly new back then. This is a while ago.
I'm telling you, those things are so sexy.
We're on Devil's Lake and we were in that thing right there. So
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's where they shine. They're amazing tools. They're amazing machines. From the only thing from what I've heard is there's a lot of talk about being simple on the ice so it doesn't break down. There's nothing simple about a bear.
Yeah.
No.
So they do break down, but I still want one.
We do too.
It's on my list. It's on my list.
Yeah, those things are awesome. The first time we saw one came up, there was a big ice heap where we were fishing, so we couldn't get across it. But all of a sudden we saw this white thing come across. We didn't know what it was. All of a sudden we saw
Yeah.
it fell down the ice. It sat there for 20 minutes and evidently didn't get anything, and it left it back up and motored on off.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
I won't
Yep.
tell you if I win the lottery, but there's going to be signs.
There's gonna be
Yeah, exactly.
got a big one, a little one. Yeah.
Custom.
I've got my Red Lake snow bear.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks again, guys. Really appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right, thanks for having us, guys. Appreciate
Thanks.
being on.
Is everybody still awake?
Hey, you still here? Yeah.
You still with us? No, that was a great interview with those guys. We hope to get out fishing with them sometime in the near future, or at
Mhm.
least next year or sometime, because it'd be an absolute hoot. And I want to, I'm, when we go with those guys, Jeff, sometime, I'm perfectly content to let them cook.
Yeah. Yeah.
That guy
Yeah,
sounds
for
like a
sure.
chef on the ice.
Yeah, he
Far
totally does.
surpasses anything I ever do. Making pizzas on the ice. Holy cow. Well, anyway, thanks for hanging in there with the show tonight. Tight lines, everybody.
Cheers.